Dead. Properly dead. The kind of dead where the last broadcast from our national leader was basically, "Hey everyone, sorry we couldn't save humanity. Happy New Year though. Please kneel to the gods and become their mindless puppets." Our bad, real uplifting stuff. Let me back up. My name's Lin Fan, and I was the last guardian of Desya. Basically the last guy standing between humanity and a cosmic team-up of Zeus, the Archangel Michael, the Demon Lord Amy, and the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You know, a casual Tuesday. We'd actually been winning for a while. Killed the ocean god, the wind god, the sky god, the winter god, punched our way through the divine roster like it was a to-do list. Humans versus literal gods, and we were holding our own. Then Zeus called his buddies. The angels called their buddies. The demons called their buddies. Suddenly, it wasn't a fight anymore. It was a parking lot, and I was the speed bump. I died to a cheap shot from the god of time. A sneak attack from the god of time. The most unfair power in existence, and he still had to fight dirty. Real classy. Then the world ended. Humanity got turned into soulless, god-worshipping zombies. History erased. Art gone. Love gone. Everything that made us human. Poof. The clock stopped at year 0015 of the new era. And then I woke up at my high school desk. I jumped up screaming, "I'm gonna kill a god today," in the middle of class. My teacher just stared at me like I'd grown a second head. My classmates were dying laughing. And I'm standing there, wild-eyed, reaching for my Azura blade, the legendary weapon that's drunk the blood of a dozen gods, and instead my hand finds a bag of spicy snacks. Where's my sword? I'm holding a bag of Latiao. The most powerful weapon in my arsenal is now chili-flavored processed tofu strips. I looked around. Blue sky. No dimensional cracks. No blood-red hellscape. No angel armies. Just a normal classroom full of teenagers who think I'm having a mental breakdown. Which, fair. The clock on the wall said November 11th, 2025. My sophomore year. 3 months before the gods show up. I actually teared up looking at these idiots' faces. My seatmate, old 5. This big dude I hadn't seen in years because, you know, everyone died. I just looked at him and said, "Man, it's so good to see you again." He had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Then the teacher tried to get me back on track. "Lin Fan, since you're so energetic, tell us, why is the sea level rising and temperatures increasing?" "Because the gods are coming," I said. "This world has attracted a bunch of deities." More laughter. Nobody believes the guy who was just screaming about killing gods and looking for his sword. Can't imagine why. I walked straight out of school, grabbed a handful of dirt outside the gate, took a deep breath, and made myself a promise. This time, Desya survives. Zeus, Michael, the whole divine circus. None of them sets one foot on our soil. Last time I was humanity's last stand, and I failed. This time I've got a 3-month head start and 15 years of future knowledge crammed into the brain of a scrawny high schooler whose most dangerous possession is a bag of Latiao. Oh, and the first gods to arrive. 2 third-rank ocean gods under Poseidon's command. 3 months. No divine power. No Azura blade. No army. Just me, my memories, and my overwhelming desire to personally kick Zeus in his smug godly face. Let's do this. Okay, quick recap on those 2 ocean gods that kicked everything off. They were bottom-tier deities, literally the weakest gods in the divine catalog, and they stumbled into our world by accident, like drunk tourists who wandered through the wrong door. Even so, it took 2 months of full-scale warfare and nuclear weapons to chase them off. We didn't even kill them. They just swam back to their ocean temple like, wow, these hairless apes are feisty. But the damage was done. Those 2 idiots went back to the god realm and basically posted our world's coordinates on divine social media. "Hey everyone, found an unclaimed planet with 6 billion potential worshippers. The old gods protecting it are dead. Come get your free believers. 6 billion souls up for grabs. An entire planet-sized divine territory, unoccupied. For gods, that's like finding a buffet with no line." Every deity and demon in existence started drooling. And they came. Gods dropping from the sky, demons crawling out of the abyss. All of them wanting the same thing. Our souls, our worship, our everything. Turns out gods aren't the benevolent grandpas from the fairy tales. They're spiritual landlords who want you to sign over your entire personality in exchange for not dying. In my previous life, I watched my parents die shielding me from sea monsters. After that, I joined the Dacia military and basically spent the next 15 years speedrunning from traumatized teenager to literal god, 6-star holy general, supreme commander of the Asian Alliance. I physically ascended to godhood, Azura god, 15th rank high deity, and could go toe-to-toe with Apollo himself using nothing but my Azura blade and pure rage. I also pushed through some absolutely insane engineering projects. A steel Great Wall to block Poseidon's floods. Underground furnaces to survive the winter god's ice age. We literally hollowed out Tibet to build underground cities so Apollo couldn't roast us. Dacia held on longer than anyone. But none of that matters right now because I'm a skinny high schooler with zero divine power and a Nokia phone. First things first, I need to warn the people in charge. I can't do this alone. I ran home. Mom and Dad were watching TV, and the news was already showing the signs. Buddha statues cracking apart in temples. Mysterious chanting echoing from mountains for 3 days straight. The experts were blaming it on old buildings and weird wind patterns. Classic. It's because foreign gods are coming, I said from the doorway. Our Eastern gods are trying to warn us. Dad didn't even register that. He just started talking about my grades and tutoring classes and stewing pork ribs for lunch. Mom was heading to the market and reminding Dad to borrow 5,000 yuan from old Zhang because tutoring is expensive. Our home was small. Our family was poor. And it was the warmest place in any universe I've ever known. I sat on my bed and whispered an apology to them. Sorry, Mom and Dad. School isn't my priority anymore. This time, I'm keeping you alive. I'm keeping everyone alive. Then I pulled out my ancient Nokia, the brick phone, the cockroach of telecommunications, and dialed a number I'd memorized from my previous life. A private number belonging to General Jean Minsheng, 5-star commander of the Lu Province Military District. Old Jean, my future boss, mentor, and fellow godfighter. Right now, he's just a 60-something-year-old military grandpa in reading glasses, reviewing paperwork and having no idea his life is about to get very weird. He picked up. Hello, old Jean. You're alive. Silence. Then, no soliciting. Thank you. He was about to hang up. I panicked. Wait. Your name is Jean Minsheng. You command the Lu Province Military District. You've got a mole on your chest, 2 bullet scars on your stomach, 1 on your shoulder, 1 on your thigh, all from border skirmishes. Oh, and that knife scar on your left leg? That's from when you played hero on vacation and some thug cut you. That got his attention. But he recovered fast. Impressive research, kid. But that's all public information. Nice try, telemarketer. So I started rattling off classified military intelligence. Troop deployments. Firepower configurations. Brigade commander names. Stuff that is absolutely, definitely not on Google. The temperature on that phone call dropped about 40 degrees. Those are military secrets, old Jean hissed, suddenly sounding less like a grandpa and more like a weapon. Who are you? Which country sent you? Here's the thing about telling someone you're a time-traveling god from the future. There's no casual way to do it. You don't need to know who I am yet. We'll meet soon enough. But if you must know, I'm Lin Fan. Future Azura god. Dacia's first guardian deity. And everything I'm about to tell you? Consider it a prophecy from God. Sweat was pouring down my face. My hand was shaking around that Nokia like it was the Azura blade itself. This was it. The most important phone call in human history, made on a phone that couldn't even run Angry Birds. Here's how my first prophecy landed. During my phone call with old Jean, I told him 3 things. 1. I'm a future god. 2. In exactly 1 hour, a 7.0 earthquake will hit Guitian country. 3. 15 dead, 23 seriously injured. Old Jean hung up on me. Fair enough. But here's the beautiful thing about predicting the future. You just have to wait. So while I was sitting at home eating my mom's freshly stewed pork ribs, old Jean was in his military conference room. And somewhere between budget reports and troop assessments, he casually mentioned to his officers, "Oh, some kid called my private number and said he's a god. Also predicted an earthquake in Guitian in 1 hour." Kids these days, am I right? Everyone laughed. One female officer, cold-faced, tough as nails, said, "Even if gods existed, I'd like to see one survive a burst from my rifle. Classic materialist energy. Love it." Then someone checked their phone. The room went dead silent. Guitian country. 5:32 p.m. Magnitude 7.0 earthquake. 15 dead, 23 seriously injured. 1 hour. On the dot. Casualties matching down to the exact number. Now, predicting an earthquake? Maybe. You could explain that with some fancy seismology equipment. But predicting the exact death toll an hour in advance. That's not science. That's not luck. That's the kind of thing where even the most hardcore atheist in the room starts sweating. Old Jin's hands were shaking. This man once parked 300 battleships outside Guatian country's harbor and aimed every cannon at their capital because they messed with our waters. He almost flattened an entire nation before the national leader personally called to stop him. That guy shaking. So, gods are real, the Ice Queen officer whispered. Don't ask me, Old Jin muttered. I'm still processing. Then the old man stood up, and the legendary 5-star general was back. Bring me that kid. Now. First class operational directive. And Red, be polite. We're not arresting him. We're inviting him. Everyone's jaws hit the floor. General Jean, the man who bows to nobody, wanted them to be polite to a teenager. Meanwhile, I was getting dragged back to school by my mom. See, while I was busy trying to save humanity, my teacher had called home to report that I ditched class. Mom hauled me back to the evening study session for a public apology. There I was, standing in front of the class, my mom bowing to the teacher lecturing about college entrance exams. Lin Fan, you even brought a phone to school. My Nokia was ringing. I checked the number. Teacher, I need to take this. It's important. Important? Nothing is more important than your college entrance exam. My future probably doesn't include a college entrance exam anymore. I picked up. Hello? Yes, General Jean, it's me. I'm at school. Class 3, second year. You sending people from the military district directly? The entire classroom erupted in laughter. General Jean? Military district? Lin Fan's lost his mind. He really thinks he's somebody. The teacher was smirking too. All right, Lin Fan, let's just stand here and wait. I want to see who shows up for you. 5 minutes later, 10 military jeeps screeched to a halt outside the school gates. Before that, the entire city of Jizhou had its traffic lights turned red simultaneously. Every road between the military base and my school was cleared. Helicopters overhead. Cell signals jammed across the whole city. People's phones had their photos automatically wiped. All for one high school sophomore. The classroom laughter died the second we heard military boots hammering down the hallway. The kind of synchronized stomping that makes the floor vibrate. The door slammed open. In walked Situ Red, Colonel Situ Red, looking like a human weapon in military dress, flanked by a full squad of armed tactical operators in black combat gear. Actual guns. Actual soldiers. Every student in that room turned white as paper. General's office guard platoon on assignment. Non-essential personnel, step aside. She scanned the room, found me, and forced the most painfully awkward smile I've ever seen onto her ice-cold face. Are you student Lin Fan? General Jean would like to invite you for a conversation. I just nodded calmly. You're here? Situ Red, it's been a while. She had no idea why I knew her name. She'd never met me, but I could see it in her eyes. This 16-year-old kid sitting calmly in front of a full-armed escort was giving her danger signals she couldn't explain. I turned to my mom, who looked like she was about to faint. Mom, relax. I'm going to go do something good. Save the world, maybe. Then I bowed to my teacher. Sir, I actually enjoy studying. But I have things I need to do now. I can't take the college entrance exam anymore. But I'll make sure all of you still can. Starting today, I'm taking a leave of absence. Duration. I didn't finish that sentence. No point. The leave was permanent. The classroom was frozen. The teacher was frozen. My classmates were frozen. Did that female officer say please? She invited him. What level of criminal gets picked up by the general's personal guard platoon with that kind of respect? 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from General Jean in his central office. The old man lit a cigarette, looked at me with those sharp ancient eyes, and said something I'd been waiting for. I have 1,000 questions. But first, he leaned forward. Prove to me that gods exist. I cracked my knuckles. Finally, someone willing to listen. Old Jean sat behind his desk like a human fortress. 60 years old, built like a tank, radiating the kind of authority that makes your knees want to buckle on their own. But I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're not important enough." The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. "I'm not important enough?" He tapped his desk slowly. "Do you know who I am? Better than you know yourself, actually." Then I told him everything. how in my previous life, he was the first person to suspect the climate changes weren't natural, that something was coming. While every scientist on the planet was writing papers about greenhouse gases, old Gene was the paranoid old soldier thinking, what if this is a weapon? And he was right. I told him how he pushed to develop nuclear weapons against everyone's objections, how he created the nuclear chain plan, how when the first ocean god hit our shores with 100-meter tidal waves and armies of sea beast followers, he was the one standing on the coastline with guns blazing, the first human being in history to aim a weapon at a god. His famous quote echoed through the entire new era, with guns and cannons, we welcome the gods. I told him he trained humanity's only war goddess, Situ Red, the same Ice Queen colonel who'd just picked me up from high school. And then I told him how he died, swallowed by sea beast followers, never letting go of his trigger, screaming and shooting until the very end. In the future, they called him the Doomsday Bell Ringer, the man who tried to warn everyone before it was too late. Nobody listened until it was. Old Gene stared at me for a long time. His experienced eyes saw only sincerity and a sadness I couldn't quite hide. What you're saying, is it true? I can prove it. But proving it to you, is that enough? You control the Lu Province military district. That's impressive. But if we're fighting literal gods, one province won't cut it. What do you want to do? I want to meet the national leader. Only the entire nation going all out gives humanity a chance. And I need to see him by 6 a.m. tomorrow. Old Jin's face went serious. One prophecy convinced me. But meeting the national leader? You'll need to prove gods actually exist. Otherwise, you're making me look like a fool. That's why I said 6 a.m. I need you to do a few things for me tonight first. At 4:30 a.m., a military transport plane took off from Lu Province Military District. 12 fighter jets as escort. Destination, the capital, Jingzhou. This is the kind of escort that only national-level elders get. For a high school kid, in his school uniform, with Lachio crumbs probably still on his shirt. We landed at 5:30 a.m. 10 unmarked black SUVs were waiting. Each one basically a rolling bunker with 20mm steel plating and triple-layer blast-proof glass. Again, national elder treatment. The driver glanced at me in the mirror. Hey kid, what do you do? I'm here to teach you how to kill gods. The driver blinked. Old Gene immediately snapped. Don't ask questions you're not cleared for. Did you forget your confidentiality protocols? But I saw it. The driver's confusion turning into something else. A grin spreading across his face. A crazy, hungry grin. Kill gods. He didn't understand strategy or politics. But he was military. And if gods were invading, well, killing gods sounded just fine to him. We arrived at the central government office. Even with old Gene personally escorting me, I went through enough security checkpoints to make an airport look casual. Finally, they led me into a small courtyard office. Red wooden desk. A painting of our nation's mountains and rivers on the wall. The national flag standing proud in the corner. And sitting behind the desk, Zhang Maoyuan, the national leader of Dixia. Just sitting there quietly, he radiated the kind of presence that felt like standing at the base of a mountain. Unshakable. Immovable. Like gravity had a favorite person. In my previous life, when every other nation crumbled and their people knelt to the gods, this man held Dixia together. Country after country surrendered their souls. Advisors begged him to submit. Just kneel, they said. At least you'll survive, his answer. Dixia has 5,000 years of history. Emperors and scholars built this civilization. And you want us to abandon our ancestors because some gods showed up and made threats? We kneel to heaven, to earth, and to our ancestors. Nothing else. Not even gods. We fight to the death, and Dixia did. Every citizen, top to bottom. Mortal bodies against divine power. This man's name became the soul of the entire nation. On Death's personal hit list, Zhang Maoyuan was ranked number 1. Above me, the actual god-killing Azura. On the office couch sat several others, the nation's top advisory team. I specifically noticed one old man with gold-rimmed glasses and starry, brilliant eyes. Chen Yan, Dixia's chief scientist. The man who developed combat mecha that saved us in the early days. Then literally ascended to godhood himself as the god of wisdom and figured out how humans could cultivate divine power. That knowledge could have changed everything. It just came too late. You're here? The national leader put down his pen and looked up. Even he, who'd seen every kind of genius and prodigy, was visibly surprised that the person old Gene had desperately called about at midnight was a teenager. I stood straight, spine like iron, and gave him a perfect military salute. Lin Fan, Class 3, second year, Jizhou First High School, reporting to the national leader. Even I could feel it. That killing intent from 15 years of divine warfare leaking out despite this scrawny teenage body. Something a high schooler absolutely should not have. The national leader wasted zero time on small talk. Jean told me you insisted on seeing me. Something about a national emergency. What is it? I took a deep breath. In 3 months, gods descend upon this world. Our mountains and rivers will shatter. Our nation will fall. 3 months from now, gods descend. Our mountains shatter. Our nation falls. Every word hit the room like a brick. Dead silence. Then, how dare you? One of the advisors jumped to his feet. Do you know where you are? Do you know who you're talking to? You dare say the nation will fall? Gods? There's no such thing. Is this a joke? The Brain Trust, Desia's top advisory team, was glaring at me like I'd walked into a church and insulted everyone's mother. These are people who worship science and data. Telling them about gods is like telling a fish about bicycles. Chen Yan, the chief scientist, stayed calm though. He just looked at old Jean and said, "You flew here overnight." For a joke, old Jean stepped forward, straightened his spine, and this man, this living legend who'd stared down enemy nations, said 5 words that shut everyone up. I believe him. This is war. The room went quiet real fast. Then I gave them everything. The full speech. 15 years of future history compressed into a few minutes of desperate teenager ranting about divine apocalypse. I told them I was a reborn time traveler, a future guardian god, and that I'd personally witnessed the extinction of the human race. Proof, Chinyan said. Not mocking, not dismissing, just scientifically curious. If this is true, how do you prove it? This is why I love this man. While everyone else was having emotional breakdowns, the scientist wanted data. This is the guy who eventually figured out how humans could become gods themselves. Absolute legend. Old Jean stepped up to the national leader's desk and handed over a USB drive. Last night, Lin Fan provided coordinates. Deep Ocean, the trench where the Asian and Pacific tectonic plates meet. We sent an unmanned submarine to 5,564 meters depth. He plugged it in. The projector showed pitch-black ocean. Crushing depth. The submarine spotlight could barely reach 10 meters. Just endless, suffocating darkness. Everyone leaned forward. Then something appeared in the murk. A shape, getting bigger, and bigger, and bigger. A skull. A human-shaped skull so enormous that the camera's wide-angle lens could only capture half of it. The submarine kept moving. Neck, torso, arms, legs. A complete humanoid skeleton, standing upright on the ocean floor. At least 200 meters tall. Just chilling down there in the abyss like it was waiting for a bus. The camera stopped at the skull's face. Those empty black eye sockets stared through the screen at every single person in that room. The thing was grinning. Dead for millennia and still grinning. Every powerful, important, unshakable person in that office suddenly felt very, very small. That's a human body structure, Chunyan whispered, his voice cracking. But humans can't possibly. 200 meters tall, another advisor said, voice trembling. Estimated. They're not human, I said. There's something beyond human. You can call them gods. And these are our future enemies. Them? Chinyan's hair was standing on end. You said them, plural? Oh yeah? There's more than one. One advisor refused to fold. This is still just your word. The video could be faked. Before we turn this country upside down, we need real evidence. Do you understand what it means if this is confirmed? Fair point, honestly. I respected that. But old Jean was already ahead of the game. Chinyan, half an hour ago, I sent a bone fragment from the site to your research institute. Got results yet? Chinyan's eyes went wide. He looked at the skeleton on screen, then back at Jean. You mean that white fragment was? Before he could even grab his phone, the office door burst open. In marched the heads of 4 different research departments: materials analysis, biology, historical artifacts, and chemical analysis, still wearing their lab coats, carrying stacks of papers, looking like they'd collectively seen a ghost. Because they had. Sort of. The materials chief was literally shaking. Dr. Chun, does this thing actually exist? What did you find? Its hardness exceeds anything modern science can produce. It's not man-made. It contains elements that don't exist on the periodic table. Structural analysis confirms. It's biological bone. Our biology department can't identify what species it belongs to. Carbon dating puts it at 5,000 years old. 5,000 years. That's when human civilization was just getting started. What kind of creature had bones this strong back then? This discovery overturns everything we know about the world. Old Jean cut through the panic. If these creatures still existed, how would we fight them? The materials chief wiped sweat off his forehead with a shaking hand. His face was white as paper. Based on bone density alone, they'd be immune to all conventional weapons. Long pause. Only nuclear weapons could hurt them. The room went deathly quiet. Nuclear weapons, as the minimum requirement, just to scratch them. And these were the dead ones. The living ones were coming in 3 months. I let the silence sink in. Then, now I've proven gods exist. Next, I'm going to show you the truth about this world. Welcome to seeing the world through a god's eyes. Not gonna lie, I was pretty proud of that line. 15 years of fighting gods teaches you a thing or two about dramatic timing. Chun Yin recovered from the giant skeleton shock faster than anyone. Because of course he did. The man's a scientist. While everyone else was having existential crises, his brain was already running calculations. Wait, he said. If that skeleton has been down there this whole time. They've been here before. Yep, I nodded. They invaded Earth thousands of years ago. But back then, we had protectors. Eastern warrior gods. That skeleton? An 8th-rank god of strength. Got punched to death by Kwafu and tossed into the ocean like garbage. Chun Yan's face froze. Kwafu? You mean the MYTHSR? All real. Every single Eastern legend. Those gods fought off the invasion and saved humanity. But the battle cost them everything. They're either dead or sleeping. And in my previous life, we couldn't protect them when they started waking up. The enemy gods ganged up on each one before they could recover. I still remember watching the Monkey King. The Monkey King, standing alone with his staff, roaring at the heavens, getting struck down by divine lightning. Lord Guan Yu, holding his blade, standing with nobody behind him and an entire sky full of gods in front. Lu Bu, alone on a hilltop, 10,000 demons below. Our legends. Our protectors. Slaughtered one by one because we were too weak to help them. Never again. So we can't count on outside help, Chun Yin sighed. But I could see it. Everyone sat a little straighter. Knowing that Xia had its own gods sleeping underground gave them something. A spark. Then we fight with what we have. Chun Yin actually laughed. What an honor. This old man gets to be a god's opponent. One advisor raised his hand. But are these gods really hostile? Our understanding of gods is, oh, sweet summer child. I gave them the crash course. Gods aren't powered by exercise or protein shakes. They have internal divine realms where they farm worshippers like spiritual livestock. The more believers, the more powerful they get. Some conquer entire dimensions just to turn every living thing into a mindless prayer machine. And Earth? 6 billion potential believers. A planet-sized divine territory. Unclaimed, unprotected. To them, we're a sheep farm with no shepherd and the gate wide open. Their goal is simple. Strip away your free will, harvest your soul, make you worship them forever. Your land becomes their divine realm. You stop being a person and start being fuel. I looked at the national leader. This was the moment. 2 choices on the table. Option A, fight the gods. Insanely difficult. Probably fatal. Option B, kneel. Surrender our souls. Live as mindless puppets. Honestly, not the worst deal, if you don't mind losing literally everything that makes you human. The old man smiled. Xia has 5,000 years of ancestors behind us. Every inch of this land was paid for in blood. 1,600 million people will not survive on their knees. We don't have much in Xia, but we have backbone. And our people have a condition, bones too hard to bend. Even in death, we die standing. Every word from this man landed like a mountain falling from the sky. Lin Fan, what happens next? What do we do? I bowed deeply. Same old national leader. Same iron soul. In any timeline. Then I walked up to the giant painting of our nation's mountains and rivers on the wall, grabbed a red pen, and drew a line along the entire eastern coastline. We built a steel Great Wall along the Lu province coast. 2,000 kilometers long. 100 meters tall. Chun Yan's eye twitched. 2,000 kilometers? That's step 1. After we survive the first wave, we extend it to Xia's entire coastline. 20,000 kilometers. 300 meters tall, because after 2 third-rank ocean gods, 3 more are coming. including a 6th-rank mid-tier deity. Within 6 months, I want Xia to fear nothing from the ocean. Absurd, an advisor shouted. Do you have any idea how much steel? The national leader raised one hand. The room went silent. He looked at me and asked just one question. Can this be avoided? No. Even if we kill both ocean gods, their temple will send more to investigate. Eventually Poseidon himself shows up. War is coming no matter what, the old man nodded. Then we fight. War with the gods. It begins. Lin Fan. From today, the entire nation supports you. Whatever you need, ask. I didn't hesitate. Expand the military to 50 million soldiers. We need them to fight the gods' follower armies, protect civilians, and build the wall. 50 million? The advisors nearly choked. The national leader shut them down instantly. This is war, not a budget meeting. War against gods. You think we can afford normal life? Our grandparents' generation didn't get normal life either. Figure out the steel. Figure out the troops. Can't figure it out? I'll find someone who can. Xia enters level 1 combat status. Now, we don't have much time. A chubby middle-aged advisor jumped to his feet. I'll handle the steel. Consider it done. I love this country. 5 minutes ago these people thought I was crazy. Now they're volunteering for divine warfare. One more thing. My eyes were burning red. I need my own department. A special operations unit. Independent from all military districts. Code name, Godslayer Corps, small teams. Elite operators. Their mission, hunt down the strongest enemy followers, and, when the time comes, kill gods. The room went dead quiet. You could hear heartbeats. Kill gods. Could mortals really do that? The national leader's eyes lit up like stars. He slammed his hand on the desk. Done. Every military department cooperates with you. No exceptions. I want to see if you can really lead Xia to slay gods. Then he turned to the room. Summon all national-level elders and district commanders. 2 hours. Supreme Assembly Hall. Emergency session of the Xia Elder Council. Meeting topic. Xia declares war on the gods. And just like that, before breakfast, a high school dropout convinced an entire nation to go to war against heaven itself. Not bad for a kid whose best weapon yesterday was a bag of Latiao. The Supreme Assembly Hall. The most powerful people in Xia, all in one room. Military district commanders, government ministers, department heads. The kind of people whose phone calls can move armies. The national leader stood up and said one sentence. The room went silent. Then a middle-aged guy raised his hand with the most confused face I've ever seen. Sir, are you joking? War with gods? Everyone chuckled nervously. Ha ha, funny joke, boss. Then the national leader stood up again. Zero humor on that face. Absolute zero. I also wish I were joking. Unfortunately, our enemy is gods. And we will go to war. The chuckles died instantly. Because this man does not joke. Not here. Not ever. Chun Yin backed him up with the evidence. 3 months. Gods descending. Invasion confirmed. This is happening. One military commander raised his hand. Quick question. Why are we fighting gods? Fair question, actually. Because the gods are fighting us, Chun Yin answered. They're invading. In 3 months, they arrive, and people die. This isn't a choice. This is war. The national leader's eyes swept the room like a searchlight. I hereby declare, on behalf of Xia, war against the gods. Does anyone object? Silence. Then, one by one, they stood up. Chuan Military District, full cooperation. War with the gods. Gan Military District, full support. South Shanghai Military District, all in. Commerce Department fully cooperates. We'll keep civilian supplies flowing. Every single one. No hesitation. No arguments. Just fists clenched and jaws set. The national leader's eyes got misty. I won't lie, mine did too. People always say Xia went soft after decades of peace. That the fighting spirit of our ancestors is gone. Those people are idiots. This nation was forged in war. 5,000 years of it. 80 years ago, when foreign powers tried to enslave us, our people answered in blood. That spirit never left. It was just waiting. Xia will now recruit 50 million soldiers. Brief pause. 50 million is a lot of soldiers. Chuan Province takes 500,000. No, 600,000. Shan Province, 600,000. Tibet Province doesn't have many people but 300,000. Jiang Province, 500,000. The Commerce Department can't help militarily, but I'm sending my son. Chen Yin had to tap the national leader on the shoulder. Sir, they're going to pledge 100 million at this rate. The old man was smiling with wet eyes. All right. Work out the details among yourselves. Now, Dixia will establish a Supreme Command Center to coordinate everything. A total commander will lead operations. Everyone perked up. Total commander? Who? That was my cue. I walked up to the podium, stood next to the most powerful man in the nation, and saluted the room full of generals, ministers, and commanders who collectively had about 400 years of military experience. Supreme Command Center, Total Commander Lin Fan, reporting, I'm 17. The room was, let's call it, processing. 1 hour later, every TV station, every social media platform, every news site in Dixia ran emergency broadcasts simultaneously. Breaking, Dixia announces recruitment of 50 million soldiers. Breaking, Dixia establishes Supreme Command Center. Commander-in-Chief, Lin Fan. Deputy Commanders, Jean Miching, Chen Yan. The second broadcast included our photos. The entire country lost its collective mind. 50 million soldiers. What is the Supreme Command Center? They control all the military. Are we invading Xia Island or something? Finally, they're expanding. I don't care what's happening. I'm enlisting. On Weibo, Dixia recruits 50 million, shot to the #1 trending topic. The comments section was pure fire. If there is war, I answer the call. Guangchuan 3rd Division, 031 SD Regiment, retired soldier, awaiting orders. Black Province 1st Combat Brigade, retired, ready to serve. South Ocean Wave-Breaking Special Forces, retired. Say the word. Brothers, are the recruitment offices open yet? And trending at #2? Supreme Command Center, Lin Fan. Yesterday, I was a nobody high schooler who couldn't even leave class without getting yelled at by my teacher. Today, my face is plastered across every screen in the country as the supreme military commander of a nation preparing for war against gods. Somewhere out there, my homeroom teacher is staring at his TV, remembering the kid who said, "The gods are coming," during geography class, and having a very complicated evening. The nation exploded. Every TV channel, every website, every social media platform, all running the same 2 headlines. DAXI recruits 50 million soldiers, and Supreme Command Center established, Commander, Lin Fan, with my photo attached. Now, the general public had some questions. Who the heck is Lin Fan? Why is some random teenager the Supreme Commander? Is he a relative of somebody important? Wait, I know him. He's my classmate. Meanwhile, at my house, my mom was standing in front of the TV with her jaw on the floor. Honey, stop chopping vegetables. Our son is. On TV? What? Did he get put on a wanted list? Dad didn't even look up. No, he's some kind of Supreme Commander of Dixia. Come look. Dad dropped the knife and ran. On the international stage, things were even more entertaining. Over in the Freedom Country's White Palace, President Puchuan, a fat man with messy blonde hair, was stomping around screaming into his phone. Is Dixia insane? 50 million soldiers? Are they starting a war? That's 1/6 of my entire country's population. The John country leader tried to calm him down. Oh, darling Pooh, don't worry. Dixia is just a sleeping lion. Looks scary, but remember, 100 years ago I kicked their door open with cannons. Their military is far behind ours. The kangaroo country leader chimed in. They're just sick men of East Asia. 50 million means nothing. Then the Elephant Empire leader, oh, this guy, went on a whole rant. My country is the real #1. We have more people, and even we can't recruit 50 million. Dixia is lying. They also claimed they built a hospital in 10 days. Obviously fake. My world #1 Elephant Empire couldn't do it, so they definitely can't. The 3-star country leader added, Big Brother Pooh, this is clearly a bluff. They're trying to intimidate us, which means they're scared. After this incredibly brilliant coalition of strategic minds finished their analysis, Puchuan wiped sweat off his forehead with his chubby little hand. Fine, probably fake, but let's send diplomats to ask anyway. And investigate that Lin Fan kid. Who is he? Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. A strange sound interrupted the call. Big Brother Pooh, what was that? Asked the Guatian country leader. Puchuan's voice got embarrassed. Oh, my friends, it's nothing. I just sold my pants again. Leadership. Back in Dixia, I was completely unaware I'd become the center of a global storm. I was in a meeting room with all the military district commanders discussing troop logistics when my phone rang. My ancient Nokia, in front of a room full of the most powerful military leaders in the country. Every eye watched me pull out this brick from my pocket. "Hey, Mom." Xiao Fan. Mom's voice was shaking. "I saw you on TV. How did you become a supreme commander?" Mom. "Well, this is, baby, come home right now. Stop causing trouble. No matter what you did, Mommy will protect you." My eyes stung. Here I am, the future Azura god, slayer of 54 deities, supreme commander of a nation at war, and my mom still thinks I'm a kid who got in over his head and needs rescuing. "Mom, your son grew up. From now on, I'm protecting you and Dad. And everyone else. Trust me, I'm not messing around." She couldn't find words. I had to hang up because, divine warfare logistics wait for no one. Then came the real test. A commander from Chuan province, a big, battle-hardened guy named Baijan, stood up and looked me dead in the eye. "No disrespect to you, General Jean, Dr. Chun, or the national leader. But why is this kid the supreme commander? Everyone in this room has actual combat experience. We've fought real wars. Why should a high schooler lead us?" Every commander in the room turned to me with the same question in their eyes. These were men who'd bled for their country. And now some teenager nobody's heard of outranks all of them? I expected this. In fact, I'd have been worried if nobody asked. Because I'm from the future. After the gods arrived, let me properly introduce myself. Lin Fan, 6-star Holy General, Dixia War God, Supreme Commander of the Asian Alliance. I've commanded over 1,000 battles against gods and their armies. Battles completely unlike anything you've ever experienced. I've personally killed 54 gods. I am the foremost expert on divine warfare on this planet. Then I looked at Baijan. "You were born in 75, enlisted at 18, earned every promotion through combat on the border. In year 0007 of the new era, when we were out of ammo fighting the Sky God, you led a suicide squad and fighter jets straight into the deity's body. You died a hero." I turned to the next commander, named him, told him when and how he died. Then the next, and the next, all of them. Every single military district commander in this room, dead on the battlefield. No exceptions. Baijan from Chuan province was the worst. He led the Chuan soldiers out of the province one last time. His entire family, men, women, old, young, refused to leave the front lines. Nobody could drag them away. They fought until not a single one was left. The room was ice cold with killing intent. Not anger at me, something deeper. The weight of futures that hadn't happened yet. Then one commander I hadn't gotten to yet spoke up, face pale. "What about me? In the future, you also died. Year 006. He cut me off with a wave and a smile. No, I don't care about that. I don't care when I die." His eyes locked onto mine. "Did we win?" Every commander in the room straightened up and stared at me. Their faces were more intense than when I told them about their own deaths. They didn't care about dying. They wanted to know if the sacrifice meant something. They asked if we won. Not, "When do I die?" Not, "How bad is it?" Just, did the sacrifice matter? These men had just heard me describe their future deaths one by one, and their only concern was whether Dixia survived. I went quiet. The national leader and I had discussed this. He said we shouldn't tell everyone the full truth. It could cause panic. But these commanders deserved honesty. 15 years after the gods arrive, humanity goes extinct. Dixia held on the longest. But in the end, the room became a tomb. Extinction. 15 years? All of humanity. 6 billion people. Thousands of years of civilization. Even Dixia, with everything we had. Even Baijan, the toughest guy in the room, rubbed his face and whispered, "So that's the future?" These men didn't flinch hearing about their own deaths. But hearing Dixia falls, that shook them. I looked around the room. By age, you're all my uncles, grandfathers even. What I told you is history I lived through. But it's also a future that hasn't happened yet. The future is not set in stone. I came back to change it. Baijan slammed his fist on the table. "Damn right. It hasn't happened. If Dixia prepares properly this time, what do we have to fear? Change the future. From today, God stop at our border." Just like that, the fire was back. These men weren't built for despair. Tell them the world ends, and they'll roll up their sleeves and say, "Not on my watch." We got down to business. I split up the 50 million recruitment quota, 5 million from Chuan province, 5 million from Lu province, 10 million from the 3 northeastern provinces, the rest distributed around. Any problems? No problems. Mission guaranteed. Actually, Baijan grinned, my province can probably do more. My son's generation is even crazier than we were. Great. Recruit as many as you can. Also, during recruitment, run genetic activity tests on everyone. Anyone scoring above 80%, send me their names. They go into the Godslayer Corps. I need over 100 within 1 week. The commander's eyes widened, but they nodded. 1 week. Consider it done. I'll open 5,000 recruitment stations across Chuan province today. They marched out of that office radiating pure battle energy. I swear the hallway got colder. Then it was just me and Chen Yan. Deputy Commander Chun, I said, pulling a piece of paper from my pocket. I need you to lead the Steel Great Wall project. I handed him my sketch. I'd stayed up all night drawing it. A rough structural blueprint for a 100-meter tall wall. Foundation specs, internal framework, material composition, all marked in pencil. Now, I'm no engineer, but in my past life, I personally supervised and even physically helped build sections of this wall. I remembered the general design pretty well. Chen Yan's hands started shaking as he studied it. This is the Steel Great Wall blueprint? You drew this? Your future self designed it. You and your research team. I'm just the delivery boy. This belongs to all of Xia. Of course, it's rough. Some details might be off. You'll need to refine it. Chen Yan ran his fingers over the drawing, getting more and more excited. 300-meter walls. Steel skeleton. Cement fill. Foundation going 500 meters deep. This is perfect force distribution. Nearly flawless structural engineering. And this material ratio, cement, gravel, and recycled materials for filling. This saves 80% of the steel. The world's greatest architects couldn't design this. This is genius. This really came from future Xia? He looked at me with complex emotions. Yes. Unfortunately, we built it too late last time. You designed the full blueprint in 7 days of non-stop work. 7 days. He stared at the paper for a long time. Then he started laughing. Without even realizing it, Xia became this capable. We used to get beaten at our own gates. Now we can design something like this in a week. You know what? I'm starting to think that picking a fight with us might be the biggest mistake these gods ever make. Old man was getting emotional, almost crying over a pencil sketch. But I got it. He was thinking about all the generations before us who suffered and bled so Xia could stand this tall. You have 1 week to complete the full detailed blueprints. Can you do it? Chun Yin, 60-something, frail, a scientist who's probably never lifted anything heavier than a textbook, shot to his feet like a soldier receiving orders. Spine straight, eyes blazing. 3 days. Mission guaranteed. My man just cut my deadline by more than half. This is why he becomes the god of wisdom in the future. Pure insanity disguised as an old guy in glasses. But then his excitement faded. He grabbed a pencil and started scribbling calculations on the back of the blueprint. Sweat formed on his forehead. A few minutes later, he looked up. Even with this design saving 80% of the steel, just the initial 2,000-kilometer wall along Lu province needs 80 million tons of steel, and the full coastline version? 300 meters tall, 20,000 kilometers, he swallowed hard. 2 billion tons of steel. For reference, that's roughly all the steel, just all of it. So to summarize my current situation, I need to build the biggest structure in human history, recruit 50 million soldiers, create a god-killing special forces unit, and prepare for divine invasion, all in 3 months. And my first major obstacle isn't gods, demons, or cosmic horror. It's a steel shortage. 2 billion tons of steel. To put that in perspective, Xia produces 1.15 billion tons per year. So we only need roughly 20 years of total national steel output. And we have 3 months. Cool. No problem at all. Let's handle Lu province first, I said. The initial wall needs 80 million tons. The National Reserve should cover that. We'll figure out the rest after we survive round 1. I looked at Shang Weitian, the Commerce Department boss, the guy who'd volunteered to handle the steel problem. This man. In my previous life, he was Xia's ultimate logistics wizard. I still have no idea how he pulled resources out of thin air again and again during divine catastrophe after divine catastrophe. The man could probably find steel deposits on the moon if you gave him enough motivation. I'll handle it, he said without blinking. Not just steel, cement, gravel, food supplies, all of it. I'll sign a military oath on it, but I need maximum authority to operate freely. Done. I don't care what methods you use. As long as you don't hurt Xia or its people, you don't even need to report to me. Just get me 20 billion tons of steel. If I fail, I accept military punishment. He turned and walked out without another word. I clapped my hands. Everyone, go handle your assignments. I had my own thing to do. Start training my body back up using the god-slaying, demon-killing technique. I needed to reach demigod level as fast as possible. Once the Godslayer core was assembled, this technique would become humanity's divine murder weapon. But just as the meeting was wrapping up, a middle-aged guy in the back row raised his hand. Commander, I have a better suggestion than building the steel Great Wall. Oh no. He walked up to the map on the wall, pushed up his glasses with what he probably thought was an intelligent look, and said, Xia is vast. Even 100-meter tsunamis would only affect the eastern provinces. Why don't we just abandon those provinces? Move everyone west? Much simpler, much cheaper. The room temperature dropped to absolute zero. Old Jean, who'd been sitting quietly this whole time, erupted out of his chair. He drew his sidearm, racked the slide, pointed it directly at the guy's face. Say that again. You want US to abandon Xia's land? Do you know that every inch of this soil was won over 5,000 years by our ancestors? Do you know how our grandparents bled to protect this ground from invaders? You want to run away because someone scary showed up? Just leave your home. Are you even human? Did your parents raise you to be a coward? Say it one more time. I dare you. See if I don't put a bullet in your head. Old Jean had completely lost it. Cursing, waving a loaded gun around a government office, veins popping out of his neck. For a 5-star general, this was absolutely unprecedented behavior. But nobody stopped him. Every single person in that room was glaring at the glasses guy with murder eyes. Abandoning Xia territory? You might as well suggest selling your grandmother. The poor guy's face went white as paper, but he stammered on. But spending all that national power, 50 million soldiers, all that steel, wouldn't it be easier to just relocate people, compensate them? And what if the wall doesn't hold? The civilians would still be, bang, a gunshot, actual gunshot. In the office, the guy froze, slowly turned around. There was a bullet hole in the wall about 3 inches from where his head had been. If I hadn't grabbed old Jin's arm and yanked it at the last second, that man's brain would be decorating the map of Xia. Old Jin, calm down. I pulled him back into his seat. And that's when Jean noticed something weird. My grip was way too strong. This old man is a career soldier built like a brick wall, and I, a scrawny teenager, had just manhandled him into a chair like it was nothing. He stared at my hands with wide eyes. I pretended not to notice. Have some tea, I said, patting his back gently, pushing the teacup toward him. He's just concerned about the people. Slam. Jean pounded the table. You're lucky Baijan from Chuan province already left. That man would have shot you 10 times by now. It took 2 full minutes of me talking him down before Jean stopped looking like he wanted to commit workplace violence. Then I turned to the terrified glasses guy, who was still standing there, legs shaking but refusing to sit down. Stubborn. I actually respected that. I get it, I said. You're worried that if the wall fails, the people in the East are trapped, right? He nodded desperately. Yes, exactly. We can't abandon territory. Not just because of principle, because it's pointless. Say we give up the East Coast to the ocean god. Great, we survive that one. Then what? The sky god arrives with steel falcon armies. Do we hide in caves? The earth god comes. Where do we go then? The winter god? The fire god? The sun god? The space god? Do we just keep running until there's nowhere left? Did Xia spend 5,000 years learning to persist or learning to quit? The room was dead silent. The glasses guy slowly sat down. He didn't argue anymore. Not because Jin's bullet scared him, but because he realized I was right. There was nowhere to run. Not from this. You don't outrun gods. You build a wall and punch them in the face. In the end, there's nowhere to run anyway. I gave glasses guy the full picture. In my previous life, the Freedom Country did exactly what he suggested. Retreated inch by inch, gave up territory piece by piece. Big tough military superpower, and they just kept backing up like a dog that heard thunder. By the end, they had nothing left to fight with. No land, no resources, no spine. But your concern is valid, I told him. When we start building the wall, you, as Transportation Department Chief, are in charge of evacuating Eastern civilians. Just in case. Think you can handle it? The guy clenched his fists. Dacia's transportation network wasn't built for decoration. This is just Spring Festival travel rush. On steroids, meeting adjourned. Everyone saluted and scattered like their pants were on fire. Chun Yin practically sprinted out, clutching my blueprint like it was his firstborn child. 3 days. He was going to lock his entire research staff in the building for 3 days straight. Old Jean stood up too. I'm heading back to Lu Province to personally oversee recruitment. I'll come with you, I said. Lu Province is ground zero. Then a guard knocked on the door. Commander, multiple foreign diplomatic representatives are calling about our 50 million soldier announcement. The national leader wants to know, do we respond? Old Jean snorted. Them? They don't deserve a response. Let the gods show up and smack them first. Maybe then they'll take things seriously. Old Jean isn't evil. He's just spent decades dealing with these countries' nonsense. Especially the Elephant Empire, whose soldiers kept poking at our border. Jean literally stood on that border as a young man with a rifle, staring down Elephant Empire troops. He's got the scars to prove it. Chun Yin paused at the door. Jean, I don't like them either. But the gods aren't just our problem. The whole planet is in danger. If we warn them and they prepare, it takes pressure off us too. Helping them is helping ourselves. He had a point. In my previous life, we tried helping the other nations and nearly got burned for it. But my ancestors always taught us to repay hatred with kindness. We're Dacia. We do the right thing even when others don't deserve it. Fine, I said. Tell them straight. Gods are coming. We're going to war. That's us being generous. If they believe it and prepare, great. If not, we tried. And while you're at it, hold a press conference. Domestic and international broadcast. Let our own people know why we're recruiting 50 million. Get construction crews mobilized too. The blueprints aren't finalized yet, but we can start digging foundations. Every second counts now. Old Jean nodded and headed out. Then he paused at the door and looked back. I was sitting in my chair, eyes closed, hands folded across my chest. Cultivating. The god-slaying, demon-killing technique was flowing through my body, building power from scratch. My teacup was vibrating on the table. The water inside was churning like it was boiling. The air around me was literally bending and distorting. Old Jean stared for a moment, then quietly left. I had gods to prepare for. No time for press conferences. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the comedy show was in full swing. President Puchuan of the Freedom Country was bouncing around his office like an angry beach ball. They agreed to talk? This recruitment is obviously an attack aimed at US. Our diplomats must band together and stop them. The other Western leaders nodded along like bobbleheads. Then, from the bottom of the video call screen, the Elephant Empire leader piped up with his trademark delusion. You all don't actually believe Dacia can recruit 50 million soldiers, do you? My country is the world's #1. We have more people than them, and even we can't do that. If we tried, our citizens would riot immediately. Dacia is obviously bluffing. They love to bluff. Remember when they claimed they built a hospital in 10 days? Bluffing. My world #1 Elephant Empire couldn't do it, so they definitely can't. The video call went silent for a solid 5 seconds. Then the Guitian country leader, who I should remind you leads a nation the size of a medium parking lot, slowly spoke up. I used to think you were joking when you said stuff like this. But I have to ask, is your entire Elephant Empire literally blind? I wasn't there for this conversation, obviously. But I can tell you with absolute confidence from 15 years of future experience. The Elephant Empire's delusion would remain hilariously consistent right up until a god physically landed on their soil and they still tried to claim it happened to them first, while I was sitting in my chair cultivating the god-slaying technique, literally making my teacup boil with pure spiritual energy like the world's most intimidating kettle. The rest of the world was putting on a show. First, the International Comedy Hour continued. The Elephant Empire leader got into it with the Guitian country leader. Little Guitian basically called the Elephant Empire blind, and the Elephant Empire leader fired back with, "Excuse me, you are speaking to the leader of the world's #1 nation. We have the world's greatest military, the world's greatest technology. We drink cow urine to boost our immune systems. Our soldiers can dance on motorcycles. Can your people do that?" Everyone on the video call just stared at him. Guetian's leader looked like he was watching a zoo animal try to use a calculator. Your military is number one? The only thing you're number one at is crashing planes. Forget it, Guetian said. I'm not arguing with you. I just want everyone to see this. He uploaded a video. A recruitment station in Xia, posted online barely 30 minutes after our announcement. And what the other world leaders saw made their blood run cold. Red flags flying, golden stars blazing under the sun. And below them, a SEA of people. Thousands upon thousands, packed shoulder to shoulder, with firecrackers going off and drums thundering. A young woman in a green military uniform, couldn't have been older than 22, was standing on a makeshift platform, voice already hoarse, screaming into a megaphone under the blazing sun. Fellow citizens, one person enlists, the whole family is honored. The nation needs you. 20,000 a month salary. 30% raise every year. Full medical coverage for your entire family. Housing solved. This is dangerous. But when have Xia's people ever been afraid of danger? I beg you. Fight for Xia. Sweat was soaking through her uniform. Her voice was shredded. But she kept going, powered by something that every person in Xia carries in their chest, that burning love for home. And the people answered, Count me in. Xia's in danger? Then I'm definitely signing up. They say you regret enlisting for 3 years, but regret not enlisting for a lifetime. I'm done regretting. But the real stories were happening in the crowd. A young salesman was walking past the recruitment square, dead-eyed, carrying his boss's bag, heading to another soul-crushing business dinner where his job was to drink until the client was happy. 3,000 yuan a month for the privilege of destroying his liver. He stopped. Boss, I need to tell you something. Tell me what? Hurry up, we're meeting Director Zhang. You're drinking tonight until he signs that contract. Boss, I'm not going. You're not. I pay you 3,000 a month and you're telling me no? You want your paycheck or not? The young man smiled. Actually smiled. For maybe the first time in years. First of all, I hate drinking. I hate this pathetic life of bowing and scraping and forcing smiles at dinner tables. Screw your sales job. I quit. Look at that sign. The nation pays more in a month than you pay me in 3. I'm enlisting. I'm going to do something that actually matters. If I'm going to die, I'm dying on a battlefield holding a rifle, not at a dinner table holding a wine glass. He threw his bag at his boss and ran toward the recruitment station. The boss stood there, stunned, watching his employee sprint away with fire in his step. Then something stirred inside the boss. Something old and dusty that he'd buried under years of business deals and accounting spreadsheets. Something from when he was young and stupid and brave. Screw it. He pulled out his phone and called the client. Director Zhang? Cancel the meeting. Reason? Xia is recruiting. The country needs people. I'm just a greedy businessman, but I'm going to enlist. Don't ask me why. I'm 35 years old, and my brain is apparently still broken enough to do something this stupid. He ran after the young man. Boss? Don't try to stop me. I'm not. Stop you? Wait up. Idiot. We're going together. Without me watching your back, you'd die on day 1. And that was just one tiny story at one tiny recruitment station. Here's another. A chubby rich kid sat in the back of a luxury car, designer clothes head to toe, face glued to his iPhone, bobbing his head to American rap music. His perfectly dressed mother was peeling an orange and coaching him. When you get abroad, study hard, get your green card. I'll wire you 30,000 freedom dollars a month. Maybe your father and I can immigrate too. They say the air in the freedom country is so much better than SCRECH. Dad slammed the brakes right next to the recruitment square. Mom looked up. What happened? Dad didn't answer. He got out of the car, walked around, opened the back door, slapped the iPhone clean out of his son's chubby hand. Get out, Dad. What are you? You're not going abroad anymore. He pointed at the ground beneath their feet. Starting today, I'm going to teach you what it means to love your country. Get out of the car. You're enlisting. I wasn't there for any of this, obviously. I was back in my office, eyes closed, quietly building the power that would eventually let me punch gods in the face again. But when they told me about it later, about the salesmen and the bosses and the rich dads and the hoarse-voiced girl on the platform, I'll admit it, my eyes got a little wet. This is Xia. This is why we held on longer than anyone. Not because of walls or weapons or strategy. Because when you tell Xia's people that the nation is in danger, they don't ask, what's in it for me? They ask, where do I sign up? I wasn't at the recruitment squares. I was busy trying to rebuild divine power in a teenage body that still had homework due. But the reports kept flooding in, and every single one made my chest burn. The stories were everywhere. A kid showed up at a recruitment station. His dad came running up behind him, out of breath. "Dad, what are you doing here?" The dad's face was all serious. I figured, if there's a bullet headed for you, maybe I can step in front of it. The kid froze. When he was little, his dad was a superhero, the tallest, strongest man in the world. Then he grew up and started looking down on his old man. The boring job, the tiny paycheck, the quiet, unremarkable life. But standing there in that recruitment line, shoulders squared, eyes blazing with something the kid had never seen before, Dad was a superhero again. Turns out that boring middle-aged man had been a fire-blooded young man once too. He'd just buried it all to provide for his family. "Why are you staring at me like that?" "Nothing." "What about Mom?" She agreed. Dad clapped him on the shoulder with a strong hand. "From now on, we protect her together." Behind them both, their mom, red-eyed and shaking, took a deep breath, made a decision, and quietly walked toward the sign-up table too. The whole family. All three. Then a tractor rolled up, belching black smoke, and a bunch of huge guys with rolled-up pants jumped off. The leader was literally still holding a HOE. "Boys, this is the place." He pointed at the recruitment booth with the hoe. They stampeded toward the sign-up line. One tapped a guy already waiting. "Hey brother, this is the recruitment spot, right?" "Yeah." "Did you all come as a group?" "What? We ain't allowed." The farmer scratched his head. "I'm strong as an ox and I know bricklaying. How's that not useful to the country? These guys, farmers, construction workers, regular people. Maybe not much education. Maybe not much money. But when danger comes, they're always first in line. They might not know foreign literature, but every Disya child, even 3-year-olds, knows one phrase by heart. When the nation is in danger, every common man has a duty. And it's these common men, these nobodies, who are Disya. 1,600 million hearts beating for the same home. 3 streets around the square were completely gridlocked. People abandoned their cars and ran to the recruitment stations on foot. 32 sign-up booths, all overwhelmed. Some lines stretched 2 blocks long. Then came the problem nobody expected. "Attention! Attention!" The young military woman on the platform was shouting through her megaphone. "Underage citizens cannot enlist. Go back to class. 18 to 45 only." A pack of 16 and 17-year-olds were not having it. "Why can't we join? We want to fight for Disya too. Just because we're a couple years younger doesn't mean we don't love our country. We want to serve. Come on, big sister, can't you make an exception? People always say the younger generation is soft, lazy, spoiled by phones and video games. Yeah? Then explain these kids begging to go to war." The military girl couldn't help but smile, even as she shook her head firmly. "You kids, your bones aren't even done growing. Your mission right now is to study, get stronger, get smarter. When you grow up, you'll be able to contribute even more to Disya. We will never send children to the battlefield unless every single adult has fallen first. Now go, back to your books, become amazing, and Disya will be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you at the barracks. You promise you're not lying, big sister?" She snapped to attention and saluted them. A proper military salute to a bunch of teenagers. "On my honor as a soldier, when you turn 18, if you still want to enlist, come find me. But," she pointed at them, "you'd better not be slacking off. Disya's military doesn't accept weaklings. School is your battlefield right now. Don't be a deserter." "Aw, we still have to study," one kid groaned. "Being a soldier is way harder than studying. If you can't even face English vocabulary and math problems, how are you going to face something truly terrifying?" The lead kid straightened up. "I get it. It's a deal." They turned and walked away, and for the first time, their school backpacks felt heavy, heavy like a soldier's rifle. "Hey, let's do homework at your place. I've got math problems I can't solve. Meet at the library." "Library. See you there." The military girl watched them go, those bright young backs bouncing with energy, and whispered, "It's a deal." Her eyes burned with new purpose. Whatever comes next, whatever gods, whatever monsters, she would protect these kids who hadn't bloomed yet, because she had a promise to keep. That 2-minute recruitment video went global, and it broke every foreign leader's brain. The secret video conference of Western leaders went dead silent after watching it. thousands of ordinary Desya citizens, office workers, farmers, students, parents, flooding recruitment stations like it was a concert. No one forced them. No one threatened them. They just showed up. President Puchuan of the Freedom Country was rubbing his temples like he had a migraine. I don't get it. How do Desya's people have this kind of unity? In MY Country, I try to build them a nice wall, and they scream at me. I tell them to wear masks, and they say I'm oppressing their freedom. Desya announces recruitment, and their people are fighting each other to sign up. Are we the crazy ones, or are they? I should send my citizens to Desya for education. He was banging on his desk now. The Guitian country leader stroked his little mustache nervously. No wonder our predecessors failed against them. That look in their eyes. It's terrifying. The great brittle country leader, John, nodded thoughtfully. I've studied Desya. 5,000 years of shared history. They're all descendants of the same ancestors. Their poets wrote about patriotism. Even their martial arts novels preach, the greatest hero serves the nation. Their unity isn't something we can match. They have a sense of identity we simply don't. Then, from the corner of the video call, a voice exploded. Slam. Wrong. We have 5,000 years of history. Desya copied us. My great universe country is the center of the universe. Traditional medicine is OURS. Chinese characters are OURS. The poet Chu Yuan is OURS. Even Confucius is. John stared blankly at his screen. Puchuan waved his chubby hand dismissively. Yes, you're the center of the universe. 5,000 years is yours. The whole planet is yours. The whole universe is yours. Then he kicked Universe Country out of the call. Who was that? John asked, annoyed. Let's not invite countries smaller than a Desya province to these meetings anymore. Not saying they don't deserve to talk to us, but what's the point? Ahem. Back to business. Guitian's leader coughed. The point is, John continued gravely, that video represents what's happening at every recruitment station in every city in every province across Desya. They're all like that. What? Puchuan's eyes bulged. Everyone? So they're actually recruiting 50 million, possibly more. Our analysts predict they'll exceed the target. Silence. 50 million soldiers. Raised in 1 week. That's almost equal to the entire population of the Great Brittle Country. Just casually conjured up like it was nothing. These Western leaders were genuinely scared now. It was like watching a dragon wake up, a sleeping lion rising to its feet and roaring. Impossible. Oh no. He was back. The Elephant Empire leader had apparently rejoined. Desya has more people, sure, but we have even more people. We dare to drink cow urine, do they? We dare to do motorcycle acrobatics on the battlefield, do they? Puchuan blinked. Why are you telling us this? I'm not bragging, the Elephant Empire leader said proudly. I'm just pointing out, if even we can't recruit 50 million, how could they? They're obviously bluffing. Just like when they bragged about building a hospital in 10 days, or a highway in 2 months. Bluffing. So we have nothing to fear. Puchuan stared at his screen for 3 seconds, then silently moved his chubby little finger and pressed a button. Notification: Elephant Empire leader has been forcibly removed from the meeting. Sorry about that, everyone, Puchuan sighed. I genuinely didn't know drinking cow urine could build that much confidence. Truly magical. Anyway, back to business. Bottom line, John said firmly, Desya is serious this time. So we must stop them. Our diplomats will demand to know why they're recruiting, whether they're preparing for war against US. Then we hit them with international sanctions. Agreed. Expose their conspiracy. They're obviously recruiting to fight US. Stop them. The Western Alliance mobilized their diplomats. 10 minutes until Desya's press conference. Their plan: gang up, corner Desya, and force them to reveal their true intentions. Meanwhile, I was sitting in an office chair, eyes closed, quietly becoming a demigod while my teacup vibrated on the desk. These clowns were about to walk into a press conference where old Gene, the man who once parked 300 warships outside a country just because they annoyed him, was going to calmly explain that gods are real and humanity is about to get invaded. I almost felt sorry for their diplomats. Almost. The internet was on fire. Not just our internet, all the internet. Every human being on the planet with a phone was glued to Desya news. The foreign web was going absolutely nuts under that recruitment video. OMG, Desya is serious about 50 million. They already started? In our country, just the paperwork would take a month. Don't flex. Everyone knows your great brittle country takes 2 years to build a 100-meter road. Impossible. My elephant empire has more people, and even we can't do this. Desya is bluffing. Bro, my cousin is in Desya. He says every city square is packed. This is real. Should we be scared? Is Desya going to war? Relax, I saw this coming years ago. Already learned Chinese. Actually, this might be nice. You think we'll get 400 kilometers per hour high-speed rail too? OH. Does this mean Treasure Island finally qualifies for free shipping on Taobao? Then the bomb dropped. Announcement. Desya will hold a global press conference in 10 minutes. Live worldwide broadcast. All questions about recruitment will be answered. 3.2 billion people tuned in. Half the planet. Watching one country explain why it just casually drafted a population larger than most nations. Inside the press venue, foreign diplomats filed through security looking like they were attending their own funerals. They whispered into earpieces, getting last-minute instructions from their leaders. Their mission, corner Desya, expose the conspiracy, demand answers. They expected a smooth-talking diplomat, someone they could verbally spar with, someone who played the game. Instead, they got old Jean. 5-star General Jean Minsheng walked onto that stage in full military dress, medals gleaming, with a pistol still holstered on his hip, radiating the kind of energy that makes grown men forget their own names. I was sitting backstage, still cultivating with my eyes half closed, and I could feel the panic ripple through the room. Wait, that's not a diplomat. Those medals on his chest. Each one of those is heavy. Is that the Lu Province Military District Commander? Jean? What's he doing at a press conference? Why did they send a general instead of a foreign affairs official? Poor things. They prepared defense with words against a diplomat. Instead, Desya sent a man who once aimed 300 warships at a country for looking at us funny. Old Jean stood at the podium, zero warmth on his face, and said, "The conference is open. Ask your questions. Also, since we're broadcasting domestically, this is a good chance for our citizens to learn what Desya is about to face." Dead. Silence. Not a single hand went up. These diplomats, professional talkers, people who argue for a living, were sitting in their seats like kindergartners who got caught stealing snacks. Old Jean frowned. Well, nobody has questions? You demanded this conference. You insisted on answers. So talk. Then, and this is my favorite part, Old Jean instinctively reached toward his hip, where his gun was. He wasn't reaching for it on purpose. It's just habit. The man has been armed for 40 years. His hand gravitates to his weapon the way normal people's hands gravitate to their phone. But those diplomats didn't know that. Every single one of them shrank about 3 inches into their chairs simultaneously. On live television, in front of 3.2 billion viewers. A lifetime of diplomatic training, years of verbal combat experience, entire briefing packets on how to pressure Desya. All of it evaporated the moment a grumpy old general with a gun looked at them like they were wasting his time. I took a sip of tea backstage and smiled. Before I sent Old Jean up there, I told him, "Be honest. Tell them everything, including the gods. We owe them that much as fellow humans. But don't hold back, and don't bother saving their face." He'd nodded. "I know what I'm doing." Oh, he absolutely did. Somewhere in the Freedom Country, President Puchuan was watching this live stream and realizing that his carefully coordinated diplomatic ambush was currently being terrorized into silence by a single 60-year-old man who hadn't even said anything threatening yet. This was going to be fun. 3 minutes of silence. On live global television. 3.2 billion people watching. The foreign diplomats just sat there, like statues, like someone had pressed pause on reality. Back home, Desya's citizens were losing it. Why aren't they talking? Because our side sent General Jean. That's not a diplomat. That's a weapon. The man almost shelled an entire country because they annoyed him. Who's got the guts to step on General Jin's toes? Give these diplomats 10 extra lives, and they still wouldn't dare. I thought this was going to be a serious debate. This is kindergarten. Wait, is that guy shaking? Hold on. Did he wet himself? The camera zoomed in on the Italian ambassador. Full body trembling. And yes, a dark stain spreading across his pants. On live television, in front of billions. Italy, maintaining its proud historical tradition of being the most helpful country. To the other side. After that little incident, whatever courage the remaining diplomats had evaporated completely. The foreign internet exploded. OMG, these are our representatives? Weren't they posting tough talk online yesterday about how they'd grilled a xia? Now one of them literally peed. Old Jean stood at that podium, back straight as a sword, face like carved stone. But inside he was burning. He knew these diplomats weren't afraid of him. They were afraid of what he represented. Xia, 1,600 million people, a nation that used to get pushed around, laughed at, looted by these same great powers. And now those powers were trembling in their chairs. Old friend, Jean whispered in his heart, thinking of the generations before him. Can you see this? We're standing tall. They can never make us bow again. This prosperity, this Xia, is everything you dreamed of. He was fighting back tears behind that ice-cold mask. 40 years of military discipline was the only thing holding him together. Then his phone buzzed. A text. From me. The national leader just called me. He says tone it down. You literally scared someone into wetting their pants. Old Jean texted back. I didn't do anything. I just stood here normally. How is it my fault they're this fragile? They came in acting all tough, and I said one sentence, and someone peed. Am I supposed to apologize for existing? Just dial it back a bit. I replied. We've always been friendly with other countries. Our diplomats are usually very polite to them. That's the problem. We've been too nice. We spoiled them. They thought we were pushovers. Then you showed up with that face of yours and, well, this is what happens when you discipline spoiled children. Old Jean rubbed his face, took a breath, and tried to soften his expression, which for him meant going from, I will destroy you, to, I will destroy you. Politely, ahem. Don't be scared. I'm not trying to frighten anyone. If you have questions, just ask. We're happy to answer. What's so hard about just talking? This made it worse. Now it looked exactly like a strict teacher trying to coax crying kindergartners into speaking up. The whole country was howling. He comforting them. I tuned in for a political debate and got a daycare simulation. Best comedy sketch of the year. Still nobody raised their hand. These professional arguers, trained specifically for confrontation, were sitting in rows like frightened baby chicks. Finally, a scream came through the Guatian ambassador's earpiece. His leader, absolutely furious. You're embarrassing our entire nation. Did you forget what I told you? Ask the question or commit ritual suicide. Ambassador Songquan took a deep, shaky breath, gathered every scrap of courage he had, and stood up. Before he could say a single word, clap, 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 clap. Old Jean was applauding him, with a big encouraging smile, like a kindergarten teacher watching a shy kid finally raise their hand. Wonderful, wonderful. Someone's brave enough to ask a question. The rest of you should learn from this gentleman. Ambassador Songquan's brain short-circuited. He was a senior diplomat of a sovereign nation, and he was being treated like a toddler who successfully used the potty for the first time. On global television, in front of billions. The humiliation was so complete it actually circled back around and gave him courage. He gritted his teeth. General Jean, please answer my question. Is Xia's recruitment of 50 million soldiers intended to provoke international conflict? Or to put it directly, is Xia preparing for war against US? Straight to the point. No dancing around it. Every diplomat, every camera, every journalist, every viewer on the planet, all eyes on old Jean. 3.2 billion people, holding their breath, waiting for Xia's answer. And me? I was backstage, eyes closed, teacup still boiling from my spiritual energy, thinking, here we go. Time to tell the world that gods are real. Ambassador Songquan from Guatian country finally asked the big question. Is Xia recruiting 50 million soldiers to provoke international conflict? Are you preparing for war against US? Old Jin's face twitched. His lip curled. He tried to hold it in. He failed. The old man started laughing. Right there on the podium. On live global television. In front of 3.2 billion people. Against you? You think we need 50 million soldiers to deal with you? He looked around the room with pure, undiluted contempt. You're giving yourselves way too much credit and massively underestimating Xia. I watched this from backstage and physically facepalmed. Songquan clenched his fists. Are you insulting Guatian country? Old Jean composed himself. No, I'm not insulting Guatian country. I'm saying not a single country represented in this room is worth us recruiting 50 million soldiers for. You think we need extra troops to handle you? Please. The diplomats' faces went white. They'd come here expecting a meek, apologetic Xia. The polite Xia. The Let's all be friends, Desya. Instead, they got the real one, the one with teeth. My phone was blowing up. The national leader had called me again. I texted Jean. The national leader just called. Again. Old man, you are killing me. You said you weren't confident about public speaking. You call this lacking confidence. But I really don't know how to be a spokesman. And you told me to be confident. I said be confident, not declare war on everyone's self-esteem. You've got diplomats shaking. Go comfort them. Fine. Old Jean sighed, put away his phone, and cleared his throat. Ahem. I was a bit harsh just now. What I meant was, you don't have the right to question Desya. Somehow this was worse. At least the trash talk was honest. This polite version was a diplomatic knife wrapped in silk. Back home, the internet was having the time of its life. When did our spokesman get this savage? You don't need 50 million to deal with you. Frame that and put it in a museum. General Jean is my new spirit animal. The foreign internet was equally on fire, but with different emotions. Desya is so arrogant. As a proud Guatian citizen, I object. Desya's current military alone could. Oh, all right. Never mind. Desya wins. My Elephant Empire warriors on one motorcycle could scare Desya's entire army. Yeah, your Elephant Empire fits 300 people on one motorcycle. That would scare anyone. Old Jean pressed forward. You're not here for justice. You're here because you're scared. Scared of Desya. Scared of our people. Scared we might come for you. That's the only reason you'd care about our internal recruitment. If you weren't scared, would you have shown up? If we recruited 100 million, would you even ask? You're afraid. So stop pretending you're brave. Apologize for your attitude. Know your place, and we can move forward. Otherwise, the door's right there. That's Desya's position. Dead silence. Then, slowly, Ambassador Songkwan lowered his head. I'm sorry. Please tell us why Desya is recruiting. One by one, every foreign diplomat bowed their heads. I apologize. I'm sorry. Please explain. Apologies. Echoing through the hall. The whole world, watching representatives of the great powers, apologized to Desya. Old Jean nodded coldly. Good. Now that you've adjusted your attitudes, I'll be generous and answer. Desya is preparing for war. But not against any country. Every eyeball on the planet went wide. War, but not against any nation? The global internet went into meltdown. Are they fighting aliens? 50 million soldiers, but not against another country? What enemy is bigger than a country? What is happening? Songkwan stood up, face pale. Then, who is Desya's enemy? Old Jean smiled. Even if you hadn't asked, I was going to tell you. This announcement is for our own citizens and a warning to every nation on Earth. Everyone, gods are coming. In 3 months, our enemy isn't any country. Our enemy is the gods. 3.2 billion simultaneous brain explosions. And me? Backstage, eyes closed, spiritual energy boiling my 7th cup of tea. Right on schedule. The diplomats' brains collectively blue-screened. Gods? Ambassador Songkwan sputtered. You're joking, right? Sure, we Guatian people have legends about Izanami, but everyone knows gods don't actually exist. Old Jean sighed. I'm not using metaphors. I'm not exaggerating. Gods. Real ones. The kind from your religions. They're coming to invade Earth in 3 months. We're telling you this because, despite our differences, we're all human. We need to put aside old grudges and stand together. This is so perfectly Desya, by the way. These countries spent centuries bullying us, stealing our treasures, kicking down our doors. And here we are, still trying to warn them. Still trying to be the bigger person. Our ancestors literally wrote, repay hatred with kindness, into our cultural DNA, and we just keep doing it. Songkwan laughed in Old Jin's face. You Desya people are hilarious. Chinyan stepped up with the deep-sea skeleton video. Projected it on the big screen. 200-meter humanoid bones staring out from the abyss with those empty, grinning eye sockets. The room went cold. Even the live audience got chills. OMG, what I asked that. If that thing was alive, we wouldn't even have the courage to look at it. Then Chun Yin held up the bone fragment. Real physical evidence. Scientifically analyzed. Songkwan laughed again. A special effects clip and a random bone? The Freedom Country already tried the mysterious powder as evidence trick years ago. This is a farce. Let's go, everyone, he walked out. The other ambassadors followed like ducklings. Chinyan just sighed. You can't carve rotten wood. Old Jean snorted. We try to save them. They're sprinting toward death. Can't stop people who want to die. He looked around for me, but I was already gone. I had more important things to do than watch diplomats reject their own survival. I was sitting in the Supreme Command Center conference room, looking at about a dozen people the national leader had personally delivered to me. "These are the ones you asked for," the old man said quietly. Honestly, I didn't want to give them up. They're national treasures. Treat them well. Then he left. I studied the group. Men and women, ages ranging from teenagers to 50s, each radiating something different, something most humans don't have. These were Desia's hidden ancient martial arts masters. Not the fake stuff you see in movies. No lightning 5-chain whips or mystical nonsense. Real combat arts, passed down through secret families for generations, kept hidden and protected by the military. And I knew from my previous life, once the gods arrive and divine energy starts flooding into Earth, these people would become monsters. Some of them were future legendary god killers. Let me introduce the lineup. First, a massive, muscular brute with fists like sledgehammers. Wang Hu, from the Xingyi school. Pure external power fighter. This guy looked like he could punch through a building and apologize to the rubble. Second, a gentle-looking man in his late 20s wearing a scholar's robe, with a soft smile and bookish aura. Mo Bougie, grand scholar of the Confucian school. Don't let the soft look fool you. In the future, this man was terrifying. Third, an old Taoist priest with a fly whisk, eyes closed, the air around him subtly warping. Dao Wanxian, grandmaster of the Taoist school, already bending reality just by sitting there. Fourth, a middle-aged Buddhist monk, emotionless, rolling prayer beads that flickered with faint golden light. The compassion master of the Buddhist school, radiating calm the way a nuclear reactor radiates heat. But the two who really caught my eye were in the corner. One had a tiny wooden bird circling around him, flying, landing on his shoulder, chirping, completely lifelike. Gonghu Ming, from the Maoist school, a direct descendant of Gongshu Ban, better known as Liu Ban, the legendary master craftsman. This guy could build things that shouldn't be possible. The other was a teenage girl in a skin-tight night suit, face half covered by a black cloth, hugging a slender Tang Dynasty sword, ponytail swaying lazily. She looked like a ninja, but her school was literally the ancestor of all ninja traditions. Xingyi, from the Maoist Shadow Starfall School. Looking at this crew, I felt something I hadn't felt since coming back to the past. Hope. "I'm sure the national leader explained who I am and why you're here," I said. "Gods are coming. We're building walls to protect civilians and recruiting armies to defend our land. But we also need something else, a blade. A blade sharp enough to pierce a god's heart. You are all stronger than ordinary humans. And when the divine energy arrives, you'll become stronger still, so I'm asking you. Please, help me. Join the Godslayer Corps. Fight the gods. Save Desia." I stood up and bowed. Full 90 degrees. The supreme commander of Desia's military, bowing to a dozen martial artists in a conference room. Because titles don't matter. Rank doesn't matter. What matters is that somewhere in this room sat the future killers of gods. And right now, I needed every single one of them. I stood up, gave them a full 90-degree bow, poured my heart into a speech about gods and salvation and fighting for Desia. I expected thunderous applause. Fists slamming tables. Yes, Commander, tears of patriotic determination. What I got was nothing. The monk kept rolling his prayer beads. The scholar kept reading his book. The giant muscle man Wang, who was literally asleep on the table, snoring. During my god-killing recruitment speech, the girl in the corner, Xingyi, the shadow assassin, yawned, then stretched like a cat waking up from a nap. "You guys, that's your reaction?" Xingyi looked up at me with the most bored expression humanly possible. "What did you expect? At least give me something." A nod, a grunt, anything. This was not how this was supposed to go. In my previous life, every single one of these people was a blazing hot patriotic warrior who'd die for Desia without hesitation. Xingyi, this lazy yawning teenager, was the first guardian god to fall in battle. I watched her face down the dark moon god with mortal wounds, standing tall with her blade, screaming, "Give me 5 more years and No god sets foot in Daxi," before charging into the sky like a shooting star. That battle was called the Star Moon War. Her entire ancient martial lineage, 1,000 years of tradition, was wiped out that night. The stars literally vanished from Desia's sky afterward. All that remained was a sickly red moon, like the gods were laughing at us. And now she's yawning at me. I took a deep breath and tried again. Perhaps you don't understand. In 3 months, God's will. God's descending. 3 months. Yeah. Xingyi had 1 foot up on the table. The national leader already told us. Like 50 times. Our ears grew calluses. Then why aren't you motivated? Wang Hu, the sleeping giant, suddenly slammed his eyes open. You tell me how? How are we supposed to fight gods? He smashed his fist on the table. Thud. The table didn't break. Just shook a little. That's it. You see that? Wang Hu pointed at the completely intact table. 30 years of Xingyi Iron Tiger Claw training. 30 years of waking before dawn. And I can't even break a table. Meanwhile, some random kid buys brass knuckles off a website for $20 and punches harder than me without any training. So you tell me, how do we fight gods with this? Oh, now I understood the problem. The old Taoist master, Dao Wanxian, cleared his throat. Don't take it personally, young man. Wang Hu means well. He's just frustrated. 30 years of external martial arts with no spiritual cultivation makes a man irritable. What's your view? I asked. The old man sighed with the weight of centuries. We are stronger than normal people. But martial arts is just martial arts. We're not flying through clouds or walking on air. This isn't the movies. Wang Hu trained his iron fist for 30 years and can break a stack of bricks. Impressive 100 years ago. But now, any teenager can buy metal knuckles online and do the same thing on day 1. I spent decades mastering lightness techniques. In my prime, I could travel 800 li in a day, the stuff of ancient legends. Then someone showed me a high-speed train. The old man's face was pure existential crisis. I had nothing to say to that. And this girl here, Dao Wanxian gestured at Xingyi. Her starfall slash is genuinely extraordinary. Her stealth technique makes her nearly invisible. She can take a head from 10 paces before the victim's eyes stop blinking. But it's only 10 paces. A sniper rifle does the same thing from 1,000 meters. A guided missile does it from another continent. He paused, then glanced at the Buddhist monk, who was still meditating peacefully. And this poor compassion master. His iron demon subduing staff technique can split boulders. But last week, some internet fraudbuster challenged him to a duel. The master hadn't even swung his staff before he was on the ground screaming. The monk's eyes snapped open. His prayer beads stopped moving. His knuckles cracked. That young man, the compassion master said with absolutely no compassion, had 0 real martial skill. In a proper fight, he stood no chance. Of course, I jumped in with palms together. Surely you showed Buddhist mercy. Your compassionate heart stayed your hand. Truly, Buddha is kind. Long, painful silence. The monk scratched his bald head. Actually, the problem was that we agreed to fight with staves. I used my traditional iron demon subduing staff. He used another pause. An electric cattle prod. Ba. This world has too many tricks. The temple was simpler. The great compassion master, holder of an ancient Buddhist combat lineage, defeated by basic physics. That day, this enlightened spiritual warrior learned something that Buddha never taught him. Iron conducts electricity, and an iron staff also conducts electricity. I looked around the room. A fist fighter who can't outpunch brass knuckles from Taba. A Taoist who can't outrun a train. An assassin who can't outrange a rifle. And a monk who got tossed by his own weapon. These were my future god killers. We had some work to do. The compassion master stared into the distance with the haunted eyes of a man reliving trauma. When I was young, I imagined my greatest rival. 8 feet tall, muscles like boulders, a staff twice as thick as mine. He'd defeat me through pure superior martial arts. I never imagined my greatest rival would be a skinny kid with 0 martial arts training and a stick that goes BZ. I didn't lose to him. I lost to the era. Ba. He went back to his prayer beads. Apparently chanting is the only therapy available for a Buddhist master who got tossed by his own iron staff. Then the Confucian scholar, Mo Bougie, literally, nothing I don't know, sighed deeply. I debated a man once. You understand? I've read every book. I know the principles of heaven and earth, the ways of humanity, everything. Then he asked me to prove that d superscript 2x slash dt superscript 2 equals d superscript 2t slash dx superscript 2 forward slash dt slash dx superscript 3. Let us not speak of this, but worse, Every question I asked him, he answered perfectly. I thought I'd found a hidden genius. Turns out there's a thing called Baidu. He put down his ancient book and pulled out a smartphone. I had no words. The man literally named, "Nothing I don't know," got destroyed by a search engine. Old Taoist Dao Wanxian, who apparently loved exposing everyone's trauma, turned to the Mahist craftsman Gonghu Ming, who was petting his magical wooden bird. Don't let him fool you with that happy bird routine. The Mahist school was legendary. Their founder created flying wooden birds that rode the wind. Wooden horses with hidden mechanisms that traveled 1,000 li a day. People thought they were gods, but recently, our friend here raced an airplane. Gonghu Ming's finger froze on the bird's head. Long silence. It went fine, he muttered, face turning red. How fine? I hadn't even taken off yet when the jet exhaust blew me over. You only got to smell their exhaust. After that you couldn't even see the plane's rear end. That's not fair. That plane cheated. It blew air at me. Sure, buddy. Dao Wanxian turned back to me with tired eyes. You see our situation now? Maybe centuries ago, we could have helped. But the world changed. Then the old man pulled out a smartphone from his robes like it was a sacred relic. My Taoist lineage had wind-carried letter transmission, really just trained pigeons. Revolutionary in the old days. But now, this little magic treasure called a phone. A few finger taps, and it's true wind-carried messaging. It even has little ladies dancing inside it. Ahem. Point is, we're not masters anymore. We're relics. Fists of steel? Can you beat a cannon? Supreme swordsmanship? Can you outfight a Gatling gun? Shadow stealth techniques and legendary blade arts? A sniper rifle does it better. Nothing I don't know? Baidu knows more. Sacred iron demon-subduing staff? Gets tossed like everything else made of metal. Martial arts in this era isn't a killing art anymore. It's exercise. You want help? Get bulldozers. Hydraulic presses. Those are stronger than us. Even Xingyi, the lazy yawning shadow girl, was looking down at her clenched fists now. All of them, silent. Defeated. Not by enemies, but by progress. They wanted to help Xia. Every single one of them. But what could human fists do in an age of missiles? What could ancient techniques offer when a teenager with a search engine knew more than a lifelong scholar? And I finally understood something that had haunted me from my previous life. I understood why Xingyi had screamed those words at the Dark Moon God. Give me 5 more years, because in this moment, none of them knew what they'd become. They had no idea that once divine energy hit Earth, their ancient arts would evolve into powers that could genuinely threaten gods. But by the time they discovered that in my previous life, the gods were already here. No preparation, no training, just desperation. That's why they fought so recklessly. That's why they died so young. Guilt. They felt guilty for every second they'd spent not preparing. I looked at these sad, dejected warriors who thought they were obsolete, and I started laughing. Ha ha ha. Not a polite chuckle. A real laugh. Loud and clear in the middle of their pity party. Wang Hu shot to his feet instantly, slamming his fist on the table. Are you mocking us? Laughing at a bunch of muscle-brained idiots abandoned by history. I'm not laughing at you being abandoned, I said, still grinning. I'm laughing because you have no idea how powerful you're about to become. You have no idea how terrifying your martial arts really are. What? You think some kid who never trained knows more about our arts then? I didn't let him finish. I pressed one finger against that solid redwood table. The same table Wang Hu's full power punch couldn't even crack. One finger. Crack. Wang Hu's mouth stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide as dinner plates. Everyone stared at the table. And at my finger. Crack. One finger. That's all I used. One finger, pressed gently onto that 5-centimeter thick, solid redwood conference table. The entire thing exploded into a pile of splinters. Not cracked. Not dented. Not split in half. Atomized. Like the table had personally offended me and I deleted it from existence. Cracks spiderwebbed out from my fingertip and the whole thing just collapsed. 1 ton of premium hardwood, reduced to firewood in a heartbeat. The room went so quiet I could hear Wang, whose brain rebooting. Xingyi, Miss yawns at everything, snapped upright like someone had plugged her into a wall socket. The Compassion Master's prayer beads froze mid-roll. His eyes flew open so fast I'm surprised they didn't make a sound effect. These are lifelong martial artists. They know how tough that table was. This wasn't some prop from a magic show. Solid redwood, industrially treated, so dense it sinks in water. Even the Compassion Master going full demon-subduing staff mode could maybe dent it. Maybe. And I just poked it to death. That's impossible, Wong Hu pointed at the wreckage. You pre-cut it. It's a prop. This is a TV trick. Can't blame the guy. When reality breaks your brain, denial is step one. Wong Hu, enough. Old Dao Wanxian stood up slowly, examining the debris with an expert eye. These fracture patterns aren't from a saw. This was shattered by pure force. Wang Hu's mouth stayed open, but no words came out. Young man, Dao Wanxian turned to me with something new in those ancient eyes, hope. Was that martial arts? How many years of training to reach this level? Everyone leaned forward. They had to know. About 2 days and 2 nights. What? 2 days? I trained Xingyi for 30 years and I can't do that. You did it in 2 days? Impossible. You must have been secretly training for decades. Even Dao Wanxian shook his head. No, that cannot be. I promise you, it was 2 days, I said. I started practicing the moment I came back to this timeline. The old Taoist stared into my eyes, searching for a lie. He didn't find one, because there wasn't one. The god-slaying demon-killing technique is just that different from traditional martial arts. I'd been cultivating it nonstop since arriving in the past, and even in just 2 days, the results were already beyond anything normal training could achieve in a lifetime. The room went through a visible emotional transformation. Shock turned into something else, something brighter. For years, these people had lived with the quiet humiliation of being obsolete. Their fists couldn't beat brass knuckles from Taobao. Their speed couldn't beat a train. Their knowledge couldn't beat a search engine. Their iron staff couldn't beat a cattle prod. But if this was possible in 2 days. However, I said, and watched the light in their eyes flicker, what I practice isn't martial arts. It's the path to becoming a demigod. Silence. A technique developed in the future by Dr. Chun Yin specifically to fight gods. It absorbs scattered divine energy from the air into your body, unlocks human potential, and eventually pushes you beyond human limits. At the demigod level, you can face a god head-on. Maybe even hurt one. Their eyes dimmed again. Of course, not martial arts. Something completely different. Their skills were still useless, but I grinned. I can teach it to all of you, eyes snapping back to me. First-timers won't progress as fast as me. About a week to learn the basics of divine energy manipulation. About 2 months to reach demigod level. Your meridians are already open from martial training, so you've got a massive head start. And here's the thing you don't understand yet. I looked at each of them. The fist fighter who couldn't break a table. The scholar who lost to Baidu. The monk who got tossed. The craftsman who got blown over by jet exhaust. The shadow girl who thought her blade was obsolete. When divine energy meets martial arts, real martial arts, the kind you've spent your entire lives mastering, it doesn't replace your techniques. It supercharges them. Your Xingyi fist, Wang Hu? Imagine it with the force of a meteor behind it. Your starfall / Xingyi? Picture it cutting through a god's divine shield. The era didn't abandon you. The era has been waiting for you. Because when the gods come, bullets won't be enough. Cannons won't be enough. Only warriors who can channel divine power through ancient combat arts will be able to truly threaten them. Your martial arts will shine brighter than they ever have. Gods who shrug off bullets will die under Eastern martial techniques. Under human martial arts, nobody moved. Then I saw it happen, one by one, like candles being lit in a dark room. Wang Hu's clenched jaw, Xingyi's straightening spine, the Compassion Master's tightening grip on his beads, Gonghu Ming's wooden bird chirping excitedly, Mo Bougie slowly closing his smartphone, Dao Wanxian's slow, spreading smile. These were people who'd spent years believing they were relics, antiques, museum pieces in a modern world. And I'd just told them the truth they'd been waiting their whole lives to hear. You're not obsolete. You're early. The age of gods is coming. And when it does, the world won't need more missiles. It'll need warriors. My little table-destroying demonstration got their brains spinning. Now I just needed to connect the dots. Wait, Dao Wanxian's eyes suddenly went sharp. You said absorb divine energy from the air. That means, yep, Earth used to have 0 divine energy. But those 2 ocean gods are currently breaking through our dimensional barrier, creating cracks. Divine energy is leaking in, and that energy? It's what your Taoist ancestors called essence of sun and moon. What the Confucians called righteous qi. What the Buddhists called compassionate Buddha energy. What every other martial school called internal force. Different names. Same thing. Divine power. With this energy, martial arts becomes real martial arts. The light bulbs went off so hard I could practically hear them clicking. Dao Wanxian slapped his thigh. That's why I could never cultivate the internal force our ancestors described in the ancient texts. There was no divine energy on Earth. Our ancestors weren't lying. Sword riding across mountains. Summoning lightning. Alchemy. All real. They just had internal force, and we didn't. The Compassion Master's eyes flew open. The Diamond Demon subduing scripture says, skill without internal power is like duckweed on water. Surface only, no roots. Amitabha. Buddha told us all along. I was blind. Suddenly the entire room was electric with excitement. For years these people thought martial arts was a joke, that their ancestors were exaggerating, that they'd wasted their lives training techniques that belonged in museums. Every single one of them had followed their ancient manuals to the letter, meditating for decades trying to cultivate internal force, getting absolutely nothing. Not because the manuals were wrong, because the fuel wasn't there. Now it was. And the real potential of 5,000 years of Eastern martial arts was about to be unleashed. Flying across rooftops? Real. Sword strikes from 1,000 miles. Real. Confucian righteous chi shaking heaven and earth? Real. Buddhist golden light and diamond wrath? Real. Shadow body assassin techniques? Star falling blade arts? 100-meter mechanical puppets from the Mahis school? All real. 5,000 years of accumulated martial wisdom. Not flower vases, not exercise routines, but genuine civilization-level combat systems refined by generation after generation of geniuses. And these people, who'd trained their whole lives without ever accessing the full power of their arts, were about to finally unlock them. So, I said casually, anyone interested in learning the god-slaying, demon-killing technique and joining my Godslayer Corps? Wang Hu lunged at me and grabbed my hands like a golden retriever greeting its owner. Of course. Brother, I'm sorry about earlier. Teach me. But you promised that god-killing thing will make my iron fists. Dao Wanxian whacked him away with his fly whisk. Calm down, you oaf. Then he turned to me, spine straight. If this technique truly restores ancient martial arts to their glory, we accept without hesitation. The Mahis Shadow Starfall School joins the Godslayer Corps. Xingyi was on her feet now. No more yawning, no more laziness. Pure fire in her eyes. The Mahis Craftsman School joins. Time to rebuild Grandmaster Liu Ban's legendary mechanical arts. Fighting gods? M.O. Bougie, the Confucian scholar, chuckled and stepped forward with his book. Let's show the divine what a scholar's righteous chi looks like. Then Dao Wanxian raised a finger. One question. If our ancestors did have internal force, that means divine energy existed on Earth before. Everyone froze. Correct, I smiled. Gods invaded Earth once before. Our ancestors, the legendary heroes, the mythological figures, they beat them back using Eastern martial arts. Beat them so badly they didn't dare return. But now those protectors are sleeping. And it's our turn to protect them, what I didn't tell them yet. As the dimensional crack widens, divine energy on Earth will keep getting denser. Eventually, even without my technique, these martial artists would naturally develop internal force. The god-slaying technique is really just a shortcut designed for ordinary people who haven't spent decades opening their meridians. But for these guys, meridians already wide open from lifelong training. It's like pouring jet fuel into engines that have been sitting idle for years, perfectly maintained, just waiting for ignition. Ordinary people need 6 months just to prepare their bodies. We don't have 6 months. Congratulations. You're officially the first members of the Godslayer Corps. Paperwork later. Right now, everyone sit down, close your eyes, and follow my instructions. We're starting cultivation immediately. They dropped into meditation positions faster than I've ever seen anyone move. Wang Hu, who 5 minutes ago was sleeping through my recruitment speech, was now sitting cross-legged with his eyes clenched shut, so hard his whole face was scrunched up, like a kid trying really hard to be good. The Compassion Master had his prayer beads ready, presumably having confirmed beforehand that divine energy does not conduct electricity. Xingya's lazy slouch was gone. She sat like a blade, sharp, focused, ready. And just like that, the Godslayer Corps had its founding members. The blade meant to pierce the hearts of gods was finally taking shape. Meanwhile, outside these walls, a storm was brewing. Our little press conference, The one where old Jean terrorized diplomats into wedding themselves and then casually announced that gods were real, was generating exactly the kind of global chaos you'd expect. But that was a problem for later. Right now, I had a room full of ancient martial artists to turn into demigods. 2 months until they're ready. 3 months until the gods arrive. 1 month of margin. Cutting it close? Absolutely. But when has anything in my life not been cutting it close? While I was sitting cross-legged in a room full of ancient martial artists, teaching them how to absorb divine energy and become demigods, the entire internet was having a meltdown about our press conference. And not the good kind. The international reaction split into 2 camps, both equally useless. Camp 1. Fake. All fake. A deep-sea video? My nephew could make that in Photoshop. A bone fragment? The Freedom Country already tried the mysterious powder as evidence trick. Desya couldn't even come up with an original scam. It's 2025, people. Have you never watched a Marvel movie? Special effects companies could pump out 5 of those videos before lunch. I bet they picked up that bone off the sidewalk. Some countries even sent submarines to our coordinates, saw the 200-meter skeleton with their own cameras, and still said we planted it. We somehow dragged a building-sized skeleton to the bottom of the ocean and staged the whole thing. As a prank, apparently. The Freedom Country scientists looked at our bone analysis data, hardness beyond anything known to science, elements not on the periodic table, and decided it was more logical that Desya had secretly invented a revolutionary new material than to admit gods might be real. We literally handed them the truth on a silver platter with a cherry on top, and they ate the cherry, threw away the platter, and called us liars. Camp 2 was somehow worse. I believe in gods. I believe in Jesus. Let me pack my bags to welcome them. Even if gods exist, they must be kind and loving, just like in the Bible. Desya is lying about the danger part. The merciful Lord would never harm us. Desya is just fear-mongering. These people believed gods existed but refused to believe gods could be dangerous. They were literally preparing welcome parties. Flower arrangements for the apocalypse. Oh, and my favorite contribution. My elephant empire has always said Desya loves to lie. Back at headquarters, Chen Yin was reading the international reactions on his phone and losing his mind. Are these people idiots? He shoved his phone at old Jean. We showed them video, bone samples, analysis data. We even offered to give them the exact coordinates so they could go look themselves. They went. They saw it. And they still say we faked it. They'd rather believe we invented an impossible new material than admit these are god bones. Some of them are even mocking us, saying Desya has gone crazy. We tried to save them and now we're the bad guys. Poor Chen Yin. Brilliant scientist. Heart of gold. Absolutely zero understanding of how petty and stupid international politics can be. Old Jean, on the other hand, was completely unbothered. The man had been dealing with these countries' garbage for 40 years. This was Tuesday for him. Let them not believe, Jean said coldly. Lin Fan told us, a living Buddha can't save a ghost that wants to die. We showed them everything. Every piece of evidence. That's more than they deserve, considering what they've done to Desya over the centuries. Honestly, we could have said nothing. Let them walk into divine invasion completely blind. That would have been fair, given our history, but we're Desya. Our ancestors taught us to be kind even to those who've wronged us. So we warned them anyway. Let them laugh. Let them mock. We'll focus on our own preparations. And in 3 months, Jin's eyes went cold as steel. I want to see who's still laughing. I want to see how many countries come crawling back to Desya, begging for help. Chen Yin calmed down, nodded sharply, and took off running. He had steel walls to design, and the Commerce Department Chief Shang Weitian had sent him a resource plan that needed coordination. Every second counted. Meanwhile, 10 minutes after our press conference ended, the Western powers held another emergency video call. President Puchuan sat at the head of his screen, fat fingers steepled together. You all watched Desya's conference. What do you think? The responses were instant and unanimous. Desya is lying, of course. And me? I was sitting in a quiet room, eyes closed, guiding divine energy through a dozen ancient warriors who'd spent their whole lives waiting for exactly this moment, while the rest of the world called us crazy. 3 months. That's all we had. 3 months to build a 2,000-kilometer steel wall, train 50 million soldiers, create a demigod special forces unit, and prepare for divine invasion. While every other country on Earth laughed at us. You know what? Let them laugh. In 3 months, they'll be screaming. I wasn't in that meeting. I was busy teaching ancient martial artists to absorb divine energy. But I heard about it later, and honestly, it was so stupid it almost came back around to being impressive. The Western leaders were having another video conference. And instead of taking our warning seriously, the warning backed by deep-sea footage, bone samples with elements not on the periodic table, and an open invitation to go verify everything themselves, they were debating what our secret evil plan was. Because obviously we were lying. The question wasn't if we were lying, but why. Desya must be trying to scare us, said John from Great Brittle Country. But what do they gain? Then the Guatian country leader, Little Guatian, the one whose ambassador got applauded like a kindergartner, dropped what he clearly thought was a galaxy brain revelation. I've figured it out. Everyone leaned in. Desya wants to trick US into copying them. They recruit 50 million, announce fake gods, and then we panic and start mass recruiting too. We'd waste money on walls and weapons for imaginary threats. Our economies collapse. Our development stops. Our national power drops. And then, while every country is busy chasing ghosts, Desya reveals it was all a show, and they surge ahead while we're all weakened. They sacrifice 500 to make each of us lose 10,000. It's the ultimate long con, Puchuan gasped. That's brilliant. And evil. These Desya people are playing dimensional chess. Here's the thing that kills me about this whole analysis. These countries spent centuries invading weaker nations for no reason other than, we're stronger and we want your stuff. They literally kicked down Desya's doors with cannons, looted our treasures, carved up our territory, like a birthday cake. But when we tell them, hey, there are beings more powerful than humans, and they want your stuff, suddenly the concept of a stronger entity bullying a weaker one is unthinkable. Why would gods invade us? If they're so powerful, why bother with weak little humans? Gee, I don't know. Why did your ancestors invade a weak Desya? Why did you need a reason? Oh right, you didn't. And when you did bother with excuses, it was literally a tube of laundry detergent waved at a camera. Desya understands this because we lived it. The strong bully the weak isn't a theory for us. It's our last 200 years of history homework. We know exactly what happens when something more powerful shows up at your door. These other countries? They've always been the bully. They have no idea what it feels like to be on the receiving end. So they literally cannot imagine that something bigger than them could exist and might not be friendly. Meanwhile, back home, Desya's public reaction was completely different. Our people heard, gods are real and they're coming, and their only thought was, we're in danger. What do we do? No denial. No debate. No conspiracy theories. Just immediate survival instinct. Because Desya has a saying every child knows by heart. Fall behind, and you get beaten. We've been beaten before. We remember. We'll never let it happen again. So while the Guatian leader was congratulating himself on cracking our master plan, and Puchuan was gasping about our deep scheming, and everyone was patting each other on the back for being so clever, we were building, recruiting, training, preparing, every single second. And in 3 months, when a goddess rises from the ocean with 100-meter tidal waves and armies of sea monsters, those brilliant strategic minds are going to look up from their conspiracy boards and think, oh, it wasn't a bluff. So while I was in a room teaching a monk how to absorb divine energy without getting electrocuted, our Commerce Department boss Shang Weitian was already making moves on the steel problem. But first, let me tell you what those genius Western leaders concluded about us. After their big brainstorming session, they'd cracked the code. They were so proud of themselves. Their brilliant deduction went like this. Desya's God story? Fake. Obviously. Desya's 50 million soldiers? Just acting. A performance. Desya's real plan? Trick everyone else into panicking and copying us. We waste our resources, they surge ahead. Masterful deception. Puchuan was practically trembling with righteous fury. So their strategy is clear. They want us to believe. The moment we start copying them, recruiting troops, building walls, wasting money on imaginary gods, we become their puppets. Therefore, no matter what, Desya says, no matter what they do, we do not believe them. Even if they get on their knees and beg us to believe gods are coming, we don't believe. Even if they mobilize their entire nation and build massive structures, it's all an act. As long as we refuse to play along, Their scheme falls apart, and they're the only ones wasting resources. Agreed. Brilliant. Let them exhaust themselves. Meanwhile, the great brittle country leader John added with a smug grin. These Desya people think they can play strategic games with US. And then, I swear this is real, he absent-mindedly flipped through a copy of The Art of War sitting on his desk. Sun Tzu's Art of War, written by a Desya person, which he apparently treated as his personal Bible. Playing strategy games against Desya using a Desya strategy book. My brother and Buddha, we are literally your teacher's teacher on this subject. Sun Tzu is our great-great-grandfather. You're reading our homework and thinking you're smarter than us. The Guitian leader chimed in too. Desya people are despicable. They have a saying, wound the enemy 1,000, lose 800 yourself. They'd happily damage themselves just to drag us down. Only the Australia country leader, Tom, seemed slightly uncertain. But they're actually recruiting 50 million people. That's real. Would they really go that far for a trick? Of course, Guitian's leader snapped. That's how devious they are. So to summarize their grand strategic consensus, no matter what Desya does, says, shows, proves, demonstrates, or physically constructs with millions of tons of steel, it's all theater. Don't believe a single word. Just sit back and watch them waste their national power on imaginary threats. This is the equivalent of someone screaming, "There's a tsunami coming," and you deciding the smartest move is to set up a beach chair and laugh at them for running. Absolutely bulletproof strategy, gentlemen. I'm sure the ocean god will be very impressed by your critical thinking skills. Then came the part that made even me laugh. Every single leader in that call simultaneously received an urgent message from Desya. President Puchuan, Desya wishes to purchase steel from the Freedom Country. Leader John, Desya requests to buy 80 million tons of steel from Great Brittle Country. Leader of Italy, Desya wishes to purchase 50 million tons of steel. Every country on that call. All at once, Desya was knocking on every door on the planet asking to buy steel. This was Xiang Weiqian's plan. The man needed 20 billion tons of steel to build the wall that would save humanity, and he was going straight to the people who just publicly vowed to never believe a single word we say. The conference call erupted. Desya wants to buy our steel, 80 million tons, 50 million tons from US? Now imagine being these leaders. 5 minutes ago, you decided Desya was running an elaborate bluff to drain everyone's resources. And now Desya is offering to pay you enormous amounts of money for your steel. Their brains were short-circuiting in real time. Because here's the beautiful trap Xiang Weiqian said. If Desya is faking everything, then selling us steel is free money. We're the idiots wasting resources on fake walls, and they profit from the sale. By their own logic, selling us steel actually helps them win. But if Desya is telling the truth, well, they'd just agreed to never consider that possibility. Xiang Weiqian, you beautiful madman, you absolute logistics demon, buying the world's steel to build humanity's shield and making the sellers feel clever about it. This is why you were Desya's greatest quartermaster across 2 timelines. So here's where the comedy reaches its absolute peak. The Western leaders were still on their video call, congratulating themselves for seeing through our master plan, when every single one of them simultaneously received a message from Desya. We'd like to buy your steel, not one country. All of them. At the same time, Puchuan got our request, 1 billion tons from the Freedom Country. Guitian Country, 60 million tons. Italy, 50 million tons. Every nation on that call, hit with a precise number that just so happened to be almost exactly their total national steel reserves. How do they know how much steel we have? Puchuan sputtered, scribbling numbers. When he added it all up, his pen stopped. 15 billion tons total. And every request was perfectly calibrated to each country's reserves. Not a random guess, surgical precision. Xiang Weiqian had done his homework. The Guitian leader immediately jumped in with his trademark genius analysis. See? This proves our theory. They're performing. Buying steel is just another act to make us believe the God story. They want us to panic. If we ignore them, they crash and burn on their own. Everyone nodded like bobbleheads. Brilliant. Foolproof. Can't lose. Then the great brittle country leader John, the one with Sun Tzu's Art of War on his desk, written by our ancestor, slowly shook his head. No, we should sell them the steel. What? Are you insane? If Xia gets 15 billion tons of steel, they could build weapons. Their military would. Listen, John said calmly, flipping through his Xia strategy book while plotting against Xia. We demand they pay full international market price. Cash up front. Can they even afford that? 15 billion tons at market rate? That would devastate their economy. And steel takes years to convert into military power. Even if they buy it all, they can't turn it into weapons overnight. So option 1. They can't pay, and we have legal grounds to declare war on Xia. You owe us money. Even Xia's own proverb says, debts must be repaid. Option 2. They do pay, and they bankrupt themselves buying steel they're supposedly using for god walls. Their national power collapses while ours stays intact. Either way, we win. John stood up, practically vibrating with excitement. Steel can be produced again anytime. But the chance to take down Xia? That's now. The room went quiet. Then Puchuan nodded slowly. Do it. Sell them the steel. Full price. And warn them. If they can't pay, we reserve the right to take military action. He chuckled. Xia's little performance is about to blow up in their face. Now let me explain why this is the funniest thing that has ever happened in geopolitical history. These geniuses just agreed to sell us everything we need to build the wall that will save humanity, because they're convinced it's all a trick. They think they're draining our economy. They think they're setting a trap. They think they're playing 4D chess. They're using our strategy book to outsmart US, and they've concluded that the smartest move is to give US exactly what we asked for. Meanwhile, back at Xia headquarters, Shang Weiqian's phone buzzed. He picked up, listened for 10 seconds, and his face lit up like a kid on his birthday. He turned to Chen Yan. They all said yes. What? Every country. Full quantities. No reductions. 15 billion tons at market price. Combined with our own 5 billion tons in reserves. That's 20 billion tons. That's the entire steel Great Wall requirement. All of it. Chen Yan's eyes went wide as dinner plates. Are you serious? Dead serious. But why would they sell us that much steel? That's basically their entire reserves. Good question, Chen Yan. The answer is, because they think we're idiots performing an elaborate hoax, and they're so convinced of their own cleverness that they just handed us the materials to build humanity's last line of defense. They literally sold us the shield that will save the world because they wanted to prove we were wasting money. The art of war says, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Sun Tzu was Xia's. And right now, his descendants just convinced every major world power to voluntarily arm us for the apocalypse while thinking they were outsmarting us. Shang Weiqian, you absolute legend. In 2 timelines, you remain the most terrifying logistics officer in human history. The man asked for 20 billion tons of steel, and the entire world said, yes, please take our money too. I was still teaching martial artists to meditate when I heard the news. I just shook my head and smiled. The gods have no idea what's coming. The steel news hit while I was in the middle of teaching the Godslayer Corps to cultivate. Shang Weiqian burst in looking like he'd won the lottery. Every country said yes. Full quantities. No cuts. 15 billion tons, combined with our own 5 billion in reserves, 20 billion tons. The exact amount needed for the complete steel Great Wall. Every last ton accounted for. Chen Yan was baffled. Why would they sell us everything? Don't they need steel to prepare for the gods themselves? Shang Weiqian scratched his head. Honestly, no idea. I had backup plans, contingency plans, plans for the plans. Didn't need any of them. Chen Yan went quiet for a moment. Then, with genuine emotion in his voice, perhaps we misjudged them. Those countries, they're actually good people. We told them gods were coming, and they sacrificed their own steel reserves to help us. That's practically saintly. Oh, Chen Yan, you beautiful, innocent, naive genius. You absolute cinnamon roll of a scientist. Those countries sold us their steel because they think we're performing an elaborate hoax, and they're trying to bankrupt us while plotting a military invasion. But sure, good people. Let's go with that. They rushed off to report to me. But I was busy. See, I was personally guiding each martial artist through their first cultivation session. This involved pressing my hands against their backs and channeling god-slaying energy through their meridians to kickstart the process. I was currently working on Xingyi, the shadow assassin girl. My hands were on her lower back, carefully directing energy through her pressure points. Don't move. Let me guide it. Follow the energy through Feng Qi, Feng Fu, Yuzhen. Memorize these points. 5 grand circulation cycles, then switch to your shadow technique. She made a small sound. Her face was hidden behind that black cloth, but I could see her ears turning red. Your body keeps trembling, I said, suddenly worried. Do you have some old injury? These martial artists sometimes develop hidden problems from years of, She made a sound that was decidedly not pain-related. I don't have any injuries, she whispered. You're just pressing really hard. I froze. Then I remembered a piece of gossip from my previous life that I'd completely forgotten. Guardian God Xingyi had an extremely sensitive constitution. Now, this is actually a great thing for an assassin. Hypersensitivity means she can detect the tiniest changes in air pressure, temperature, humidity, basically a human radar system. Her reaction speed is superhuman. Her body control is unmatched, perfect for the shadow assassination arts of the Starfall School. It's just that certain other situations also trigger that sensitivity. I yanked my hands back like I'd touched a hot stove. She stood up without looking at me, face pointed firmly at the floor, voice barely audible. Commander, may I be excused for a moment? Why? She somehow managed to turn even redder. Her eyes were practically steaming. Oh, yes. Go. Go. Come back when you're ready. Remember the circulation pattern. She speed walked out of the room like the building was on fire. Moving on. Everyone else was too deep in cultivation to notice, thank God. And the results were incredible. These martial artists had spent decades building the perfect infrastructure. Meridians opened, techniques mastered, bodies refined, but with zero divine energy to fuel any of it. Like having a race car with no gasoline. Now, gasoline was pouring in. Wang Hu, the big fist guy who couldn't break a table an hour ago, was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, and behind him I could see ghostly images flickering in and out of existence. A roaring tiger, a crane spreading its wings, a praying mantis striking. His hands were unconsciously shifting between tiger claws, crane wings, and mantis pincers. 30 years of Xingyi training finally awakened. The man had been standing at the door of his art's true power his entire life. Today he finally walked through. This is what the ancestors meant by internal force. He was grinning like a maniac, clenching and unclenching his fists. I feel like I could punch a cow to death. The old masters weren't lying. My fists before were pathetic compared to this. Behind him, phantom tigers roared silently. I made a mental note to replace that conference table before anyone noticed. But the real showstopper was the Compassion Master, the monk who got defeated by a cattle prod, the man who learned that iron conducts electricity. He sat in perfect lotus position, quietly chanting sutras, running the god-slaying technique exactly as I'd taught him. And around his body, a golden bell appeared, translucent, shimmering, covering him like an invincible dome. Golden Buddhist light radiated from the top of his head. Behind him, a massive golden swastika symbol, the ancient Buddhist one, not the other kind, was slowly forming in the air. Every inch of his skin seemed plated in gold. His iron demon-subduing staff, resting across his knees, was glowing with golden energy, radiating an aura of absolute destruction. He looked like a living Buddhist statue, an actual deity sitting in my conference room. The Buddhist golden bell shield, the diamond lion's roar, the immovable wisdom king body, the diamond demon-subduing staff. All the techniques he'd practiced for decades that never worked, that seemed like nothing more than fancy exercise routines, they were all coming alive at once. Powered by real divine energy for the first time. Just sitting there, the man felt like a mountain. A small smile crept onto his usually emotionless face, the first genuine emotion I'd ever seen from him. Amit Ba, he murmured softly, eyes still closed, golden light pulsing around him. Buddha is compassionate. This time, allow this humble monk to deliver the gods to paradise. Let me translate that from Buddhist polite to normal person language. I'm going to beat the gods to death and send their souls to heaven, and I'm going to do it with a smile. Buddhism teaches compassion, but it also teaches the diamond wrathful face, the idea that sometimes true mercy means hitting something really hard. Any god that sets foot into Xia, the Compassion Master would compassionately introduce them to his staff. At high velocity, repeatedly. And this time, if someone came at him with a cattle prod, he'd laugh. Because you can't electrocute a man wearing a literal golden bell force field. Amitabha indeed. While the Compassion Master was busy becoming a golden Buddha of destruction, the others weren't slacking off either. Behind him, old Dao Wanxian, the Taoist Grandmaster, was sitting cross-legged with a ghostly Inyang Bagua disc spinning behind him. Black and white swirling together, infinite Taoist energy flowing. The old man's entire body was shrouded in mist. His robes were moving without wind. His white beard was floating. He looked like he'd stepped straight out of a celestial painting. Even I had to do a double take. This guy had just started cultivating the god-slaying technique, and his energy signature was already so deep and mysterious that I, a near demigod with 15 years of combat experience, couldn't fully read him. Let me put that in perspective. Thanks to my past life experience, I'd pushed my cultivation to 9th rank perfection in just 2 days. I'm literally half a step from becoming a true demigod. And this old man, on his first day, was already giving off an aura that made me squint. Taoist cultivation is no joke. Behind him, his peachwood sword, which had been strapped to his back, floated up on its own and started orbiting him like a satellite. His yellow paper talismans detached from his belt and scattered into the air, arranging themselves into a formation around him. A genuine Taoist array that was actively concentrating the scattered divine energy in the room toward himself. The old fox was using ancient Taoist array techniques to speed up his cultivation. On day 1, without anyone teaching him how. This sneaky old man, I muttered with genuine admiration. Then there was Mo Bougie, nothing I don't know, the Confucian scholar who got humiliated by Baidu. He sat in meditation with his 4 treasures of the study, brush, ink, paper, inkstone, floating around him, glowing with an eerie light. His paper unfurled itself midair. Dense black ink swirled around his body like living calligraphy. Literary energy transforming into ink. The first stage of Confucian combat arts. He was whispering ancient texts. Confucius said, "To know what you know and know what you don't know, that is true knowledge." With every quote, the black ink behind him twisted into giant floating Chinese characters, hanging in the air like weapons forged from pure scholarship. He'd already figured out how to use righteous chi to resonate with heaven and earth. On day 1, I knew what this man becomes. In my previous life, when Mo Bougie reached his peak, he recited a single poem, 10 steps, 1 kill, 1,000 miles, none survive, and his body became a killing machine. He walked 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye, and with every 10 steps, heaven and earth itself crushed a god's follower. 1 million enemy soldiers, wiped out by a book nerd quoting poetry. But that was years too late last time. He didn't emerge as a fighter until year 005 of the new era. Right now, gods haven't even arrived yet, and he's already channeling righteous chi. I looked around the room. Golden Buddha over there. Taoist immortal in the corner. Confucian war poet summoning floating characters. Wang Hu's phantom tigers roaring behind his fists. In my previous life, most ancient martial artists didn't discover they could use divine energy until 2 or 3 years after the gods arrived. By then, it was too late. They were always catching up, always fighting from behind, always dying with the words, "If only I'd had more time," on their lips. But now, the gods hadn't even broken through the dimensional barrier yet, and my Godslayer core was already awakening powers that shouldn't exist for years. History was changing. Right here, right now, in this room. For the first time since I came back, I had proof that the future could be different. My chest was burning with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope. Then someone knocked on the door. Xing Ye's back already? I walked over and opened it, expecting the shadow assassin returning from her break. Instead, it was Chun Yin and Shang Weitian, both looking like they were about to explode from excitement. Chun Yin? Shang Weitian, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be working on the steel problem? The two of them were practically vibrating. Whatever news they had, it was big. And based on the grins on their faces, it was good big. Which honestly made me suspicious, because in my experience, good news usually means the universe is about to balance it out with something terrible. But hey, I'll take the wins where I can get them. There's a golden monk, a floating sword, and sentient calligraphy in my conference room. The whole world thinks I'm running a hoax, and somewhere out there, 2 ocean gods are hammering at reality's door. 3 months. Clock's ticking. But for the first time, I think we might actually pull this off. Chun Yin and Shang Weitian were standing at my door, grinning like idiots, which immediately made me suspicious. See, I knew what the steel situation looked like in my previous life, and it was ugly. In the old timeline, Shang Weitian eventually got his 20 billion tons. But the cost? He tore down skyscrapers for their steel frames, emptied supermarket shelves of every metal item, pots, pans, chairs, thermoses, even iron cups, confiscated people's cars. At the end, he was collecting kitchen knives, iron basins, and screws from furniture. Multiple families shared a single wok. People lined up just to cook. Citizens cursed Shang Weiqian's name daily, but his brutal efficiency kept Xia alive. Those 20 billion tons became the steel Great Wall that stopped the ocean, became underground furnaces heated to 10,000 degrees that saved us from the winter god's ice age, became 13 underground survival zones that sheltered hundreds of millions from sky-hunting steel falcons, all at the cost of Xia's people eating dry, cold fried rice in underground bunkers while the world froze above them. That memory burns me. I came back to change everything, not just the ending, but the journey. I want Xia's people watching the 100-meter tsunamis from behind a wall while eating hot pot and singing karaoke. I want them sitting in warm rooms during the divine winter, sipping tea and admiring the snow through their windows. I want them to live, not just survive. So when these two showed up looking excited about solving the steel problem, I assumed the worst. You found a solution? I said, face completely flat. Yes, we did. Chun Yin was beaming. As expected of the commander, you already guessed. I can guess your solution, I said coldly. And I forbid it. Xia's citizens will not suffer for this. 20 billion tons is a lot, sure. But if you squeeze everyone, you could get it. Private cars, rebar from buildings, steel from bridges, pots, pans, kitchen knives. Absolutely not. I told you to find a solution, not to rob our own people. If that's all you can come up with, what do I need you for? Find another way. My words hit like hammers. I meant everyone. Both of them just stared at me, blinking. Commander, that's not what we came to say. Huh, that was my worst-case backup plan, Shang Weitian said carefully. But the situation changed. I paused, then burst out laughing. Oh, sorry. I jumped ahead. My bad. So what's the actual news? Shang Weitian still looked slightly traumatized from my outburst, but pressed on. I sent emails to every major country, offering to buy their steel at international market price. Honestly, I expected them all to refuse. In this situation, with God's coming, steel is literally life or death strategic material. But they all said yes. What? Every single one. Not just friendly countries like the Bear Country. I expected them to help. But the Freedom Country said yes. Guitian Country said yes. Countries that have been our rivals for decades. And they didn't even negotiate the quantities down. I requested amounts based on conservative estimates of their national reserves, basically asking for everything they have, and they just agreed. They're giving us their entire steel stockpiles, right now? When gods are about to invade, Shang Weiqian's face was a beautiful mixture of joy and utter confusion. Our people are already at their ports doing inventory checks. Freedom Country, shipping. Guitian Country, shipping. Everyone, shipping. I scratched my head. This made absolutely zero sense. You're sure this is real? Confirmed. Our personnel are on site at every major port, counting shipments as we speak. Chun Yin, the beautiful, innocent genius, had tears in his eyes. I honestly never expected this. These countries, they're good people. We told them gods are coming, and they're sacrificing their own strategic reserves to help us. Even countries that used to be our enemies. This is the kind of brotherhood that goes beyond borders. Practically family. Oh, Chun Yin. Sweet, pure, wonderful Chun Yin. The man who will one day ascend to godhood as the god of wisdom currently cannot fathom that those countries sold us their steel because they think we're scamming ourselves and they want to profit from our stupidity while plotting to invade us. They're not being generous. They're being greedy. They think they're robbing us blind. They're actually handing us the keys to human survival. But you know what? I'll take it. I don't care why they're selling. All that matters is 20 billion tons of steel is now headed to Xia's ports, and not a single Chinese citizen will lose their kitchen knife, their car, or their cooking pot. In my previous life, Xia's people ate cold rice in dark bunkers. In this life, They'll eat hot pot behind a 300-meter wall and watch the ocean god throw a tantrum outside. History officially changing. Thank you, Western strategic geniuses. Your breathtaking combination of arrogance and greed just accidentally saved the human race. Sun Tzu is smiling in his grave. The steel was coming. Every country said yes. 20 billion tons headed our way. But something smelled wrong. Chen Yin thought these countries were being selfless heroes. They're truly good people, he kept saying with misty eyes. Yeah, no, I know these countries. In my previous life, after the first ocean god invasion nearly destroyed our eastern coast, did they send help? Did they offer support? No. They lined up their armies on our borders and started running military exercises while we were bleeding. They were waiting to carve us up like a turkey. If the second wave of gods hadn't hit everyone simultaneously, Dixia would have been divided among those vultures before we could recover. These are not good people. Chen Yan. What conditions did they attach? I asked Shang Weitian. Nothing major. Just that we pay full international market price on delivery. Cash or equivalent military products. There it was. I see. I started laughing. Those sneaky bastards. Here's their actual plan, broken down for idiots. Step 1. Sell Dixia astronomical amounts of steel at full price. Step 2. Dixia either can't pay, giving them legal grounds to declare war, or Dixia does pay, emptying our treasury and weakening us. Step 3. While we're broke and trying to turn raw steel into a wall, they attack us during the vulnerability window. Their generous steel sale was actually a trap, a financial chokehold disguised as charity. 20 billion tons at market price? That's enough to drain half our military equipment budget if we paid in weapons. Dixia soldiers fighting gods with kitchen knives because we traded all our guns for steel. Beautiful plan, really. Wolves wearing sheep costumes. Same as always. Can we afford it? Chen Yan asked, finally catching on. Shang Weitian winced. We could pay cash, but then we'd have zero money left for actually building the wall. Workers don't work for free. What about paying half cash, half military equipment? And oh, I shut that down instantly. Every single gun stays in Dixia. We're about to fight gods. We're not sending our weapons overseas. Print more money. Dixia's currency will become the only stable global currency in the future. I'm not crashing it now to pay these clowns. Shang Weitian looked stuck. Then how? I leaned in and whispered a few words in his ear. His eyes went dinner plate wide. Can we do that? Why not? They want money. That is money. They think Dixia can't swallow this deal. They think we're still the poor country from decades ago where millionaires were rare. Let's show them exactly how much Dixia has been quietly stacking up. 1,300 million people building wealth for decades. The world has no idea how deep our pockets really are. I can't reveal the specifics yet. But let's just say Dixia has been a quiet dragon, sitting on a hoard that would make those Western leaders choke on their morning coffee. Shang Weitian hesitated. But once we play this card, our foreign reserves drop. They might hit us with financial sanctions. A full commercial blockade. Let them, I laughed. Years ago, we paid through the nose just to be their factory floor. But now, we're the world's biggest consumer market. They need US to buy their junk. Block us? With what leverage? We have our own food, our own minerals, and they'd be cutting off their biggest customer. Go ahead, gentlemen. Blockade your own wallet. Besides, in 3 months, half these countries might not exist anymore. We don't have time for financial games. When the gods arrive, they'll come begging us for help. I clapped Shang Weitian on the shoulder. Go do it. And don't worry, 1,300 million people have your back. That's my trump card. Not money, not weapons, not even divine power. People, 1,300 million of them. Building, fighting, sacrificing, refusing to kneel. That's a force no god and no country can match. Shang Weitian straightened his spine, took a breath, and marched out like a man going to war. Which, technically, he was. Now the fun part. Everyone, stop cultivating. I clapped my hands in the conference room. You can meditate in the car. Wang Hu stretched and yawned. Where are we going, Commander? I tapped the eastern coastline on the map. Lu Province. The coast. They're about to start building the steel Great Wall. Wang Hu scratched his head. Construction? That's for builders. What's that got to do with US? I smiled. Because if my memory was right, digging those foundations along the eastern coast was going to wake something up. Something sleeping underground. Something that would require the Godslayer Corps to handle. Wang Hu, I said, poking his massive chest. Eat well these next few days. Lots of meat. Lots of rice. You're going to need the energy. He blinked at me, confused. Good. I'll let him enjoy his last few peaceful meals. The steel Great Wall was about to begin. 20 billion tons of steel converging onto Xia from every direction. The biggest construction project in human history. And somewhere beneath the soil of our eastern coast, something ancient was stirring. 3 months until the gods arrive. The clock never stops. We took military jeeps instead of flying to Lu province. Not because I couldn't get a plane. At this point I could probably commandeer a space shuttle if I asked nicely, but because I wanted to see Xia's land with my own eyes. See how things were progressing. The Godslayer Corps members were meditating in the back seats. Smart. Every second of cultivation mattered. They knew I wasn't bringing them to a construction site to carry bricks. Something was waiting for them in Lu province, and they wanted to be ready. I sat in the front jeep, watching through the window as the landscape rolled by, and what I saw made my heart swell. Engineering vehicles. Thousands of them. Roaring down the highway like a stampede of steel dinosaurs, all headed east toward Lu province. Every national construction company in Xia had been redirected. All projects suspended. Every crane, every excavator, every concrete mixer in the country was converging on the eastern coast. All national construction teams have been deployed to Lu province. Old Jean briefed me rapidly. Steel from the national reserves is already en route. Construction has begun. Recruitment is also going well. 20 million soldiers in just 2 days, and the pace is accelerating. People keep saying this generation is soft and broken. But when it matters, the old man's voice cracked slightly. They really step up. I smiled watching the endless river of construction vehicles. For hundreds of kilometers, the flow never stopped. Not once. An unbroken chain of steel beasts thundering toward the coast. This is Xia's answer to the gods. Then my smile died. Mixed in with the military and national vehicles, I spotted something that shouldn't be there. Trucks without government markings. Banged-up vans and civilian construction vehicles. All racing toward Lu province with handmade banners flapping in the wind. Capital City Brothers rushing to help Lu province. Lu province stay strong. Black province construction crew incoming. What are those? I asked, already knowing the answer. Old Jean chuckled. Civilian construction teams. Volunteers. They heard about the danger and just started driving. My face went dark. Instantly. You approve this? Jean nodded casually. The construction department said they were short-handed, so, are you kidding me? I snapped. Driver, stop. Pull over those civilian vehicles. Now. The military loudspeaker crackled to life. Vehicles ahead, please pull over for inspection. The civilian trucks slowly stopped on the shoulder. Old Jean looked confused. What's the problem? What's the problem? I was fighting to keep my voice respectful. This man was still a legend, but my blood was boiling. Did you forget our meeting? Minimal civilian involvement. Building a 100-meter wall sounds simple until someone falls from the top. What if there's an accident? What if the gods arrive early? That construction site is a war zone without bullets. I want to evacuate the entire eastern coast, and you're sending civilians to ground zero. Old Jean went quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and rubbed his weathered face. I couldn't stop them. Couldn't stop them? You command millions of soldiers. You move armies with a phone call, but you can't stop some construction workers? It's different. The old man gave me the strangest look. Tell you what, go try it yourself. Then you'll understand what I mean by couldn't stop them. I jumped out of the jeep, absolutely certain I could handle this. 3 civilian construction crews were parked on the roadside. Dusty workers in hard hats and cement-stained clothes were climbing out of beat-up vans, confused about why they'd been stopped. Their skin was dark from years under the sun. Their hands were rough. Real working men. Leading them were 3 middle-aged bosses in suits that were also covered in cement, dust, and mud. Because apparently putting on nice clothes doesn't stop a construction guy from being a construction guy. A chubby one squinted at the military jeeps nervously. Military vehicles stopping you on a highway is not a relaxing experience. But he puffed up his chest. Come on, boys. Even the army can't stop us from helping our country. We're not criminals. Yeah. Nobody can stop us from serving Xia. They marched toward us like a small army of muddy determination. Then the chubby boss saw my face, and his confidence wavered, because he recognized me. From TV, the supreme commander of Xia's entire military. standing on the side of a highway, looking annoyed. And next to me, General Jean, the man who'd just humiliated every foreign diplomat on live television. The chubby boss started sweating, but he held his ground. Respect. Old Jean, I turned back, still skeptical. This is what you couldn't handle. Jean just shrugged with a look that said, you'll see. I faced the workers, took a deep breath, and put on my most authoritative commander voice. Everyone, please turn around. Go home, old Jean warned me. You can't stop them, he said. I didn't believe him. I am the supreme commander of Desya, half a step from demigod. I've killed 54 gods in a previous life. I once stared down Zeus himself. I got defeated by a chubby construction foreman named Old Wong. Here's what happened. I stepped out of the jeep, walked up to these dusty civilian workers, put on my most commanding supreme commander of all Desya voice, and said, everyone, please go home. Old Wong, short, pudgy, cement on his suit, clearly nervous, standing in front of the Lin fan from TV, looked at me for about 3 seconds. Then, from some bottomless well of ordinary man courage, he grinned and said, boss, I can't go home. Why not? Because my boys will kill me. He turned around. Hey brothers, the commander says we should go back. Should I take you home? Old Wong, you try going home and see what happens. We agreed to go help. You chickening out? You need money? We'll pull some together. But if you're ditching us to take a private job, I'm never working for you again. Old Wong turned back to me with the most helpless grin. See, boss? I literally cannot leave. They'll murder me. I tried reason. I appreciate your spirit, but please trust us to handle. A worker in the back yelled at full volume. Boss, we trust you, but you can't just have the country protecting us. We gotta protect the country too. Yeah, we didn't go to fancy schools, but how's that saying go? When the nation's in trouble, every common man's got a duty. This was our idea. Nobody made us come. These guys did not care that I was the supreme military commander. They were going to help Desya, and that was final. Old Wong played the sympathy card like a master. Boss, we're Desya people too. You can't stop us from helping our own country. You guys fight on your battlefield. We fight on OURS. That's what family does. Then his phone rang. Mid-argument. He actually picked it up in front of me. Yeah, it's me. Listen, Zhang, I brought all my guys. We're heading to Lu province. You'll need to find another crew for your project. I'll refund your deposit. What? No other crews available? They all went to Lu province too. I could hear the client on the other end go silent. Then, fine. Go do your thing. I'll wait. But when you're done, get back here and finish my swimming pool. And keep the money. Click. Old Wong grinned at me again. See, boss? I already canceled all my jobs. If you send me home now, how do I explain that? His workers piled on. My wife cried when I left, but she still told me to go. If I come home, now she'll divorce me. I already bragged to my whole village that I'm going to help save Desya. If I go back empty-handed, I'll be a laughingstock. I stood there, supreme commander of the greatest military mobilization in human history, being absolutely, completely, thoroughly outmaneuvered by a pack of construction workers with cement in their hair. Old Jean was behind me, whispering, Told you. Can't stop them. Their own wives couldn't stop them. What chance do we have? While we were arguing, 3 more civilian construction convoys blew past us on the highway. Didn't even slow down. I also spotted trucks from private companies loaded with rice, flour, cooking oil, and salt, all headed to Lu province with banners that said things like, XX company supports LU province. All voluntary. Nobody organized this. Nobody ordered it. They just went. I looked at Old Wong. I looked at his 100+ workers standing behind him in their dusty clothes, with their rough hands and their sunburned faces and their absolute refusal to go home. These people are nobody special. Small-time contractors, village laborers, guys who worry about monthly loan payments and argue with their wives about money. They can't fight gods. They can't cultivate divine energy. They can't do anything except lay bricks and pour concrete. But they're the reason Desya stands. They're the flesh and blood, the heart and soul. 1,600 million hearts that beat the same way when their home is threatened. I am half a step from being a literal demigod. And I could not stop these people. Not because I lacked the authority. Not because I lacked the power. Because they had something that outranks both. 5,000 years of Desya spirit burned into their bones. When there's trouble, you show up. Period. No debate. No calculation. You just go. Their wives cry and wave them off. Their clients wait. Their loan payments pile up. And they go. You cannot stop that. I don't care if you're a commander, a general, or a god. That spirit is unstoppable. I let out a long breath. Then I bowed to them. Full bow. The supreme commander of Desya, bowing to a chubby foreman and his dusty crew. Then, thank you, all of you. I turned to old Jean. Contact the construction department. Register every civilian crew. Assign them proper tasks. Pay them the same rate as government crews. Guarantee meals and housing. Equal quality, no shortcuts. Their children get tuition waivers. All of them. And any civilian donations, food, supplies, whatever, we pay for at fair price. Nobody gives anything for free. Desya doesn't take charity from its own people. Old Wang's eyes went wide. Boss, we said we'd work for free. You'll get paid. Full rate. End of discussion. Because here's my rule. Desya's people protect Desya, and Desya protects its people right back. That's not negotiable. Not in this timeline. As we pulled back onto the highway, I watched the endless stream of civilian trucks mixing with military convoys, all thundering east. Banners flapping, horns honking, an entire nation in motion. Old Jean glanced at me. Now you understand what can't stop them means. Yeah, I do. And honestly, if Desya's common people are this stubborn about helping, maybe the gods should be the ones worrying.